to K through 12 public schools. Governor Ivey says that a parent should be able to choose to spend time with their new baby and not have to forego a paycheck to do so. Ivey says the state of Alabama values families and values our workforce. I'll be back with more Alabama stories after this.
Where I was living was not a great place to live anymore. I began to pray for a place to go, praying for all of these things that a 9-year-old would want. I wanted horses, big house with a bunch of people my age. I wanted parents. I wanted a mom and a dad. Before I even prayed it, the Lord had already answered my prayer with the Big Oak Ranch. Who would that 9-year-old be if she never came to the Big Oak Ranch? I would be trying to fight for survival instead of fighting to break a cycle.
Big Oak Ranch, a Christian home for children needing a chance.
A single vehicle crash occurred in Athens on Tuesday, killing a woman and child inside. The Alabama Law Enforcement Agency has identified the victim as 24-year-old Maria Alonzo Perez and a 5-year-old child. Another child was a passenger in that vehicle and had to be transported to a hospital. The vehicle went off the roadway, struck a culvert, and then overturned. 2 people are under arrest in Town Creek in connection to a dog attack that occurred last year and killed 83-year-old Willard Norton. A grand jury has issued an indictment against 56-year-old Jonathan Nix and his daughter, 35-year-old Bridget Lamons. Both are from Town Creek and are facing reckless manslaughter for the dogs that were unrestrained that attacked Norton outside of his home. He died later from his injuries. And comedian Jeff Foxworthy is going to be performing this Friday in Oxford at the Performing Arts Center. Foxworthy has been part of the Blue Collar Comedy team for 25 years. I'm Andrea Tyson.
For more news affecting Alabamians, go to 1819news.com. And while you're there, subscribe to the daily newsletter.
Hi there, I'm Kim Williams with Alabama Home Mortgage.
And I'm Madeline Cannon. It's true, rates aren't as low as they have been for the past couple of years, but there are still many homeowners that could benefit from refinancing their current mortgage. There are a lot of things in life that are out of our control, but your mortgage rate is not one of them. If you currently have an adjustable rate mortgage, then you owe it to yourself to give us a call.
Adjustable rate mortgages make sense for some people in stable markets, but in this wild, ever-changing rate environment, it only makes sense to secure a fixed interest rate. A fixed interest rate will give you the peace of mind that your rate is locked. Your rate will not be subject to change with the political and economic tides.
At Alabama Home Mortgage, you can personalize your term. We offer 8-year to 30-year mortgages and everything in between. Grab your mortgage statement and give us a call.
Call Alabama Home Mortgage, the #1 mortgage lender in Alabama, today at 567-4223, or visit us online at myalabamahomemortgage.com. That's Alabama Home Mortgage, because, folks, there is a difference in mortgage companies. NMLS 1586-36A, Equal Housing Lender.
The views and opinions of the following program are solely those of the host and other contributors. These do not necessarily represent those of Liberty Acquisitions 825, Blue Water Broadcasting, its management, staff, or any advertisers. It's time for Montgomery's conversational radio show. It's News and Views on News Talk 93.1 FM. To join the conversation, call 272-9228.
It's a Trump country. We live in the Southeast. We drink sweet tea. We don't drink socialist Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Joey Clark.
Welcome into the program here. Beautiful day. Well, a little overcast out of Montgomery, Alabama, but I consider it at least mild weather for a change of pace. Byron Sheehy here in the studio with me. How you doing today, sir?
You better be perfect, Joey. How are you, sir?
Life's all right. And there's so much to get to, especially the reaction to Liberation Day, or all the tariffs that were announced yesterday. So we'll
reaction.
Yeah. I mean, where's the market at right now? Oh, it's down, or the Nasdaq's down almost 5%.
You know, markets go up and they go down.
The Dow is now. The Dow's actually it's not as bad. It's just under 3% loss. It was near 5 on the Dow earlier. So we'll see how it shakes.
What do we need, about a 20% correction?
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see. There's a lot of different angles to this. A lot of blame game going on. Strange bedfellows and allies fighting against it, for it. We'll get into all that stuff and lay out the arguments and possibly what might happen. Coming up at 2:00, we have Jeff Dice, former president of the Mises Institute, former chief of staff for Ron Paul. Always love talking to Jeff. And then returning guest Brylan Hollyhan, who is, I believe, a student at the University of Alabama and very active in youthful Republican GOP circles. And I like the guy very much. And just going to kind of kick around since he eats, dreams this stuff, eats, sleeps, dreams, all this stuff, like the Trump movement. He's on the Trump train. I want to just pick his brain on like the highlights of these last few months, even with the, oh no, the tariffs that Trump has been saying for months he was going to do. Oh no, he actually did the thing he said he was going to do. But kicking off the show with us, as is tradition on Thursdays, we have Erica Thomas from 1819 News. She's editor at large there at 1819news.com. Erica, how you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great. Actually, I just got back from Billy's Seafood. It's an open air market in Bon Secour, south Baldwin County. And I was talking to the owner there about this tariff wars. And, you know, while a lot of people are worried about the prices of their wedding dresses and Nintendo Switch going up, he is just very hopeful that possibly these tariffs could save his business and his industry. 90% of shrimp comes from, they're imported here in the U.S. Even at the local restaurants here in the Gulf of America, they still sell Chinese and Vietnamese farm-raised shrimp. At a lot of those places, because of the high prices, that the locals have to offer, because they don't pay their employees $2 an hour to do all that work. And so I think I'll have a very interesting story on this, and I hope everybody tunes in 1819news.com to check it out.
No, and I think you're going to find out of this a lot of winners and losers, and then sometimes it's just going to be short-term wins and losses. I think in the long run, this actually might be a win. Honestly, I have criticized Trump for years, and I've learned to just go with it because he seems to defy conventional wisdom, even if you're talking economics here. So no, I look forward to reading that story.
And I'm definitely no economics expert by any stretch of the imagination, but you have to look at this as America first, and we are putting America first for a change. This is going to create jobs. It's going to actually increase wages in the U.S. eventually. You just have to calm down and get through the storm first, because it is definitely a storm right now.
Indeed it is. And that's what everybody's talking about today.
Putting his money where his mouth is.
There you go. And now I want to shift to one story that's really getting a lot of attention at 1819news.com that you wrote up. The headline is, "We are setting ourselves up for destruction. Alabama officers lament removing God from law enforcement code of ethics." So this is like an oath that law enforcement officers take as they enter the job, and they've removed God, but it sounds like they've completely revised the language in general of this.
Yes, this was all started in 1957 by the International Association of Chiefs of Police, IACP. And what they did is they came up with this code of ethics, and as people graduate from the police academy or they get their first job, they'll take this oath. And there's several parts of it that have now been changed to be more inclusive. And one of those things is they took out the word God. Now, I want to point out local agencies in Alabama, you can kind of change around any part of these oaths that you would like to do. In some instances, maybe somebody doesn't believe in God, they can ask to not say that. But the reaction from local law enforcement and former law enforcement, former Mobile Police Chief Paul Prine is who I talked to yesterday. He said, if you don't have a higher power to pledge to, your oath is to nothing. And I think his comments were very interesting. He is a man of faith. He's very open about that. He's actually preached some at a Pentecostal church in Mobile. And so he has a lot riding on God, and he has a lot riding on law enforcement in general. And when you put his perspective together, it's very interesting, because he has always been one to be understanding of people that don't believe the exact same thing that he does. And it really does take someone like that to tell this story in the correct way, because he said, each agency can change around whatever they want to in this. It doesn't have to be word for word as the ICAP puts it. But what's important is that he said, you have to subscribe to God or a God, or you're just taking out the importance of taking a code of ethics at all. What's the point?
Yeah, you need to ground yourself in something more than just you, is the idea. And this is the International Association of Chiefs of Police. I actually have somebody in law enforcement here locally text me that it's insanity, these changes. And I don't know, like all these like international associations, national associations, even some statewide associations. I'm like, that is where good ideas go to be perverted and rotted out and just transfigured into something we don't recognize.
Yeah, and that's exactly what another officer told me. Now, he's a current officer, so he didn't want to go on the record with his name because he was scared to get in trouble, because he does work for a pretty woke police department in North Alabama. But he said, you're seeing this everywhere. Law enforcement agencies, they're seeing this in different training materials, that sort of thing. He said you just see it everywhere. And he's really concerned that this is part of a larger conspiracy type thing to just set up, to reject God and set us up for destruction.
Well, and it is getting a lot of ground. It's kind of astounding that you can't have that simple anchor there, simple though profound anchor, and a basic oath.
Well, yeah, and I do want to mention that former Mobile Police Chief Paul Prine, he actually did not find God until he was shot in the line of duty. He was shot 3 times. He lost a kidney. He almost lost his life. He said he was laying there and he was just sure he was going to die. So as he got ready he prepared himself for eternity, he turned to God. That's when he was saved on the ground in October 2001 as he was laying there bleeding out.
Oh, what a shame. What a shame.
Yeah.
That even happened. But on the other side of it, you see somebody come to a realization and a profound change.
Yes, exactly. And you have law enforcement friends. I have law enforcement friends. They're tough people. But whenever God brings you to your knees, you're not so tough anymore. And he's very thankful that he has Jesus Christ for salvation now. He's moved on. He is now running for the mayor of Mobile. So we'll see what happens.
Indeed, we will. Now, another one that's gotten a lot of attention, got my attention because my dad lives down here. I think he actually helped with some of the construction of the whole wharf complex down there in that area, saying Gulf Shores could part ways with the Hangout Music Fest company if the 2025 Sand in My Boots Festival goes rogue. This is a big deal every year, right? And so why are they, what's the deal here?
This is a big deal. There's Hangout Music Fest every year. 40,000 people come down here to the Gulf of America to celebrate music and friendship and just enjoy themselves. This year, the name of it is changed to Morgan Wallen's Sand in My Boots, but it's still the same company that's managing this. It's called AEG Presents is the name of the company. They do Stagecoach, Coachella, some of the big festivals, and this is one of the biggest festivals. Especially on our beaches. And so over the last several years, there have been local complaints, noise complaints, just kind of people getting drunk and crazy and just a lot of crime going on during the time. So the city is really taking a look at what changes can be made. Even there's been complaints about some of the acts that have been brought in that are just very foul-mouthed, and that's just not what Gulf Shores is about. Gulf Shores is very family-friendly. And even during this festival, they want to keep that reputation. And so they're looking at this year will be the last year of their contract with AEG. And so if things don't change this year with the rebranding, with the Sand in My Boots, they're ready to look at that franchise agreement and maybe make some changes. And one of those changes could be just throwing it out altogether.
I mean, that's going to be a really bad, though, if you're talking about, this attracts 40,000 people every year. You're wanting to change that. I mean, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of activity.
Yeah, it's great to have 40,000 people here a year. We have that throughout the year because Gulf Shores is home to some of the most beautiful beaches in the world. I mean, our white sand beaches are just, you can't compare that to anything else. And so, but we want to keep those beaches clean. We want to keep the atmosphere clean. And that's why the city has now set up an ambassador program. They're going to try to alleviate any negative impacts that happened during the festival when it comes to complaints or noise ordinance, make sure things are really done well. And so I'm hopeful that the hangout will definitely continue. I believe it will be Sand in My Boots from now on, if not something else. But we're going to bring in people that Alabama people want to hear. You know, we don't, half of the list sometimes I've never heard of them before. And then when I hear them, I'm like, well, I'm glad I never heard them before, because they're just so the opposite of what we are. And so we just need something that's going to represent who we are, so that when people do come to Alabama from out of state, they go home with a memory of true Alabama.
Now, another issue you've written about recently that, you know, the more I see all the attacks on Elon Musk and Tesla, I keep seeing all these Teslas here in Alabama, but not enough. Our studio's right very close to the esteemed the Montgomery Academy, so where the rich folks send their kids. And I saw a Cybertruck leaving there as I'm sitting at the intersection. So I see some Teslas around town, but it seems like a lot of Alabamians are hesitant, or maybe they want to buy a Tesla, but it's not easy for them to do it. And it's something about the law that's holding people back.
Yeah, you can always go online, buy your Tesla. They're very high tech, obviously, but they do have stores and galleries in 38 states and the District of Columbia, but Alabama is not one of them. And with Trump, you know, having Elon Musk head up Doge and all the support that he has gotten, Musk has really gotten a lot of support from Alabama. And so we got to thinking, is it time to bring a Tesla store to our state? Because it would probably do pretty good. You do see more and more Teslas on the road here in Gulf Shores. We have Timothy Lauer. He's the host of the Coastal Conservative podcast. He's also a real estate broker here in Gulf Shores and Foley. He has a new Cybertruck. It's sitting outside of his business. It's incredible. He got it wrapped. It looks amazing. Nice. Everybody knows about that. So I talked to him about his thoughts on this. And as a Tesla driver, you know, he said it would be a lot better because he had to go to Florida to get his Tesla. So he would love to have something like that here. And he thinks that the people of Alabama would really support it. And as far as the attacks, he hasn't had any attacks, but he has had the middle finger a couple times.
Well, and, you know, I've even thought about it. It's a little costly for me, but a big hurdle is, like, you could obviously go online. The thing will be delivered to you probably in a beautiful way. But what if you do have an issue and you want to get it serviced? Do I have to drive to Florida or Georgia or just somewhere else other than Alabama? And that's going to hold me back, even if I had the money, from purchasing one of those things.
Exactly. And so people that want the Teslas here, they're looking at a bill that was introduced in 2016. Maybe it should come up again. And it would allow for these direct to customer sale dealerships to operate in Alabama. So that's one of the hurdles that they're going to have to overcome before they can even think about bringing a Tesla dealership here.
It's always fascinating what laws come up. You're over there squinting, kind of furrowing your brow there, Byron.
I don't understand like why we have to have a law passed or changed to allow a business to operate in the state like this. I mean, I don't understand. Is it he's not a part of an association? Like, why can't there be a Tesla brick and mortar dealership in Birmingham? Why?
Well, I think the purpose of the law in the first place was just so that automakers were protected in Alabama, and they never thought about Tesla or buying a car
or auto sellers, auto dealers,
auto dealers, and also automakers, because Tesla is their own. So you wouldn't think, you wouldn't have thought about that when they made this law. Like, there's an actual automaker that's going to sell here.
Automakers are required to go through a third-party dealership in the state. You can't do the direct distribution.
And that's what's crazy to me. I didn't realize that.
It is quite a lot of control. And honestly, when I started writing this story, I didn't know that either. It was upon research that I found that this was one of the hurdles that Tesla has faced before. And so maybe we'll see it come up again in the near future, just to kind of get with the times.
I know. And I do see plenty of them around here, but I also have, I've done deep dives. Stuff can definitely go wrong with a Tesla, and it'd be nice to have something in your own backyard. And I think it just would help expand the business, and it'd be good for Alabamians. And I love your reporting across the board. You're on top of so many things, Erica. And again, folks, we've been talking to Erica Thomas there at 1819news.com. If folks want to check out what you're writing about, what you're maybe investigating, maybe they have a lead, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can go to 1819news.com and you can see our stories. Our names are at the bottom of the stories and the top. So our email addresses are also in our stories. You can email me directly, or you can check me out on X at Erica T News. Well,
appreciate it as always. We'll do it again next week.
Thanks,
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you. God bless.
Erica Thomas there with 1819 News, folks. Always appreciate her time. Yeah, the Gulf Shores thing, like the Hangout Fest has been a destination for a long time.
For them pesky college kids, Joey, we need some older tax-paying, respectable adults to come in.
And I know Panama City a few years back tried to clean up their image. They were tired of all that nonsense going on there.
Job, I think.
Yeah, and they did. It's just, I've spent a lot of time down there in the Gulf Shores, Orange Beach area, and I don't know. There are a lot of people that live there and want it to be a quiet, wonderful little community, and I don't blame them, but for like 1 week of the year, you have a little crazy. I mean, and then you're making all this money off of it. It makes your town a destination. People make memories there. It's kind of,
they're going to be able to make the money. I mean, I think it's what type of 40,000 people are showing up, right?
Right.
So if we get, a little bit more Grand Ole Opry and a little less techno, then I think the community would probably appreciate that a little bit more.
And seriously, if I had the money, I would definitely go get a Tesla. I don't care how many people might mess
I would not
me.
get one of those ugly trucks.
You would not get the Cybertruck? Have you seen one in person?
Yes. And it's still ugly.
You don't like it in person?
I don't like
it. Is polarized.
It's not a sexy design to me.
See, I love it, especially like when I saw it on video. I'm like, that's funky and different. But when I saw a few here in Montgomery in person, was able to walk up to one parked and just kind of look at it, I'm like, I like it in person.
If it had a curve, I mean, it's just it looks like a bad polygon I drew in 7th grade. I mean, it's horrible.
I think it's based on what one of Elon's young kids drew up one day.
I'm pretty certain it's based on Homer's car that he drew.
Again, 272-9228. That's 334-272-9228 if you want to get in on the conversation. We will get into the reaction to all the tariffs. The Dow is now down a little over 3%. The NASDAQ also taking an even bigger hit. We'll be watching it not just today, but in the days and weeks to come. By the way, if you're like freaking out about your 401k because all the corporate media is yelling about this, maybe you should not look at it.
Just check next week.
Yeah, like check down the road.
Wait a few days.
Right. I don't have a 401k, but I've learned with Bitcoin, like don't freak out. Don't panic, as it says in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Don't panic.
Or
if you panic, you're going to mess
that
up.
Opportunity for someone else. Just go sell everything.
Yeah, we're not getting that one. He's being facetious.
Yes, that's not advice.
This part of the program brought to you by Josh and Leslie Ryder there at Dillon Rings. They are a full-service jewelry shop at Dillon Rings, and especially, great inventory, repair work, spa treatments to clean up, make that jewelry shine and shimmer like it's brand new again, especially those pieces you wear every day because you love it, but you want it to look brand new again. They can do all sorts of stuff like that. But the custom design work by Josh Ryder, designed by Josh, is second to none. And I don't know if you saw what he put up on Facebook today, Byron.
I have not.
Look it up. Dillon Rings, Dylan Rings on Facebook. And the little caption that I believe Josh wrote up is, have you ever worn a bread tie as a ring? Well, here's a bread tie inspired platinum and diamond engagement ring made for a client. This is a ring that tells someone's love story. We can make it for you. And that's remarkable.
Oh, that's cool, man.
That is so cool and unique. And especially, folks, for something like an engagement ring. And, maybe the person you're looking to ask to marry wants a particular thing, but I don't think you can go wrong with something truly unique that tells your story. And that is, look at the handiwork.
It's beautiful.
Wow. Wonderful work, Josh. Wonderful work indeed. Folks, you got to go over to Facebook and check that out. Absolutely stunning. And, of course, you can stop by there today, right now, 119 Brown Springs Road here in Montgomery, just off of Atlanta Highway, sort of the back-end entrance to the AUM complex. And be sure to tell Josh and Leslie that Joey and Byron, those fellows on the radio, sent you. We'll hit a quick break here. Come back to some of these calls right after this.
He may not know whether he's coming or going, but whether you're going to work or coming home, Greg Budell is there. Mornings, 6 till 9, and afternoons, 3 till 6. Only on News Talk 93.1 FM, WACV.
Don't you love the feeling of coming home to a clean house? Let Southern Bell's Cleaning Service get your home in order. Families in the River region trust Southern Bell's because they know Callan and Jesse will show up on time and believe in cleaning the old-fashioned way. They bring all their own supplies and specialize in full-service, residential, commercial, vacant properties, and construction cleanup. Estimates are always free. Call Southern Bells today at 546-0715 or follow them on Facebook at Southern Bells Cleaning River Region.
Days are longer and our prices are lower at Cafco's Spring Open House. Join us Thursday through Saturday for the best sale of the season on all your favorites like home decor, floral supplies, gifts, and many more. Enjoy refreshments and register for daily door prizes. Don't miss Karen Gresham's designer demo Saturday, April 5th at 10:30. Shop our sale more than once for daily deals and surprises throughout the store. Cafco Outlet Spring Open House sale this weekend 9 to 5. Located on the Wetumpka Highway.
Must qualify for enrollment. Results may vary.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. Call now. 800-575-8924. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-8924. That's 800-575-8924. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
For too long, Alabama's statewide news companies have shamed us for our conservative Christian values. Alabama deserves a news company that cherishes our culture, a company that isn't bought and paid for by the powers that be. 1819 News is that company. Run by Alabamians for Alabamians, 1819 News celebrates what is good and beautiful about our state, while exposing those who work against our values in secret. Just go to 1819news.com to learn more. Subscribe to our newsletter. That's 1819news.com.
Weather, a service of H&H Carpets, where right now, get a load of this, listen close, you get a house full of carpet for $19.95 installed. Unbelievable. They're located at 6450 Atlanta Highway, just across from Walmart.
Rich Thomas weather.
We are flirting with record high temperatures again today and tomorrow. In fact, the record for today is 87 from 2015, and I've got us in the upper 80s to near 90, so we should break it. A sun and cloud mix. Really more like early June than April. Partly cloudy, very mild tonight, overnight low 68. Risk of showers begins Saturday, still warm, but late Saturday night in the overnight hours and particularly Sunday, yet another severe weather threat. And all modes of severe weather are possible. We're keeping an eye on it. From the National Tropical Weather Conference, South Padre Island, Texas, Rich Thomas for Blue Water Broadcasting.
CB&S Bank has digital banking solutions to help you keep up. Check balances, pay bills, and much more. Learn more at cbsbank.com. Charges and fees may apply from your cellular service provider. Contact your service provider for information. Member FDIC.
If it concerns your community, you'll hear about it on News Talk 93.1. News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back.
Yeah, you sold me on the other model, Joey.
Oh, you like it?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were looking at Tesla models off there. Let's go right to the phones and talk to Dave. Hey, Dave, how you doing?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I only got in on the tail end of some of your conversation about Tesla and Elon Musk, and the lady, was she 1819 reporter?
Yes, sir.
Well, let me just give a plug for 1819. Just through listening to you, probably a year ago, we subscribed, and I really appreciate their reporting of the news, all the emails I get. Well, I get way more than I can read. but I like their I like what they cover. They're great. I encourage people to sign up. But so the other thing was, some months ago, Joey, you mentioned that you had read a biography of Elon Musk. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so that inspired me. I started listening to audiobooks, and I listened to one partly because he's a very interesting person, and the fact that he's now got such influence in what's going on in our government, it's really good to get some of the background.
Exactly.
Now, I'm curious if you and I read the same book. The one I read was it was on Hoopla. It was written by Nate Whitman. It's called Elon Musk, Modern Genius and Business Titan. Is that the one you read? Or
No, the one I read is the one by Walter Isaacson. It's just called Elon Musk.
Yeah, I don't know how different they are, but it was very interesting to hear about some of his childhood, bringing up some of his struggles, things he went through. Gives you a little bit better understanding of who he is, and he's definitely 1,000% workaholic. That came through.
Yeah, the Walter Isaacson book, he was given like inside access to essentially shadow Musk everywhere he went for a few years. And so you get this inside look that's the good, the bad, and the ugly. He sort of details the demon mode that he in part inherited from his father, who's a real piece of work, putting it nicely, Errol Musk. But it is fascinating. This guy who's risen to this, he was already rich, he was already pretty famous, but to see him in the political world, it's almost like he doesn't fit, because of all my time covering politics over a decade now, I've rarely, if not ever, have heard somebody say, yeah, we're going to make mistakes, but we'll correct them immediately. It's just completely different. I've never heard a politician say that. Yeah, we're going to make mistakes, but we'll fix it.
But Elon Musk said that.
Yep.
Right. And it's interesting to also get a glimpse of some of his lifelong goals, which I maybe had not understood or heard before about, life on other planets, establishing a colony on Mars, and the Starlink, and all the Neuralink. And some of that stuff's a little bit scary.
Yes.
The Neuralink is scary to me. Maybe it's inevitable, but so anyway, I enjoyed the book, and I say thank you, Joey, because if you hadn't mentioned it, I probably wouldn't have listened to it, even though we read different books. A lot to learn there. So
well,
that's probably all.
Well, thank you. Thank you for listening, Dave. Thank you for calling. And, I'm glad that we're both interested in a lot of the same stuff. And thanks for the plug about 1819.
Yep. All right. Bye-bye.
Again, 272-9228 if you want to get in on the conversation. That's 334-272-9228. Keeping on the Elon Musk theme, we'll get to the Liberation Day and the tariffs and the markets and the back and forth on the social media, yada. But you were asking off air, Byron, so is Elon Musk leaving? Mm-hmm. And there were many press reports that said that exactly. That, he's leaving soon. Well, I think there is some truth to the special government employee thing. There are only so many days you can work as a special government employee. But in terms of Musk going away, a lot of people hinting this is the beginning of the end.
The breakup.
The fallout. Yeah. He's weighing down the Trump administration like an albatross.
Was that wishful thinking?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely that's wishful thinking. Here's J.D. Vance being asked to believe this morning on Fox News about the whole what's going on with Elon. Is he leaving? Let's listen.
I want to get to some other news because there were some reports that came out that Elon Musk is leaving. Now, of course, the president had already said he was only going to be here for a temporary basis.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Doge will continue after Elon Musk. Will he still be an advisor to you and the president? I know y'all have a great relationship. Tell us about it.
Well, first of all, that report I saw was total fake news. Elon came in and we said, we need you to make government more efficient. We need you to shrink the incredible, vast bureaucracy that thwarts the will of the American people, but also costs way too much money. And we said that's going to take about 6 months. And that's what Elon signed up for. But of course, he's going to continue to be an advisor. And by the way, the work of Doge is not even close to done. The work of Elon is not even close to done. You look at all of the fraudulent grants that they found. You look at people who are 150 years old, who are fraudulently collecting Social Security payments. You see our Social Security system, 40% of the people who are calling in are actually committing fraud. That means the 60% who need their Social Security checks are waiting in line. Doge has got a lot of work to do. And yeah, that work's going to continue after Elon leaves. But fundamentally, Elon is going to remain a friend and an advisor of both me and the president. And he's done a lot of good things. People don't realize how vast and uncontrolled the bureaucracy was. We've started to chip away at it, but there's a lot of work to do. It's not going to happen all in 6 months. It's going to take a long and committed effort.
In particular, I am ready for the Pentagon. That's the big one. That's the big meal for Doge. HHS was another very big meal, and we'll get into what RFK has been doing. And in particular, Callie Means, who's been a big, say, leader of the MAHA movement, or a big proponent of it at least, very much defends RFK Jr. and his vision and what's going on. He did a Politico event where it's a bunch of pharmaceutical lobbyists and executives, and he goes into Lion's Den and just tells them to their face. And he's knocking down all these things being, well, say, thrown out by the media, that you're cutting research funding. Because you cut NIH programs, because you cut things at HHS, you're cutting research and science. And it's like, no, that's literally the opposite of what we're doing. But the beautiful thing, like, how could Elon Musk leave Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, the Boring Company, like all these companies? How could he leave those and go do this thing with Doge? It's because, once you stand up a system and it's running well, you don't have to micromanage it.
See, I take it differently. I'm going to go back to what I said the other day about him recognizing, sort of the U.S. being the central post or the guidepost in Western civilization. I think that he would rather be at his business making money and advancing, his field, rather than having to do this. But because he understands the severity of it, duty calls. So he answered the call.
Well, and in a way, if you think of Doge as another one of his startups, okay, he gets it started up. He gets it running. There's a lot of very brilliant, top-notch people that left other industries to come do this also on a free basis. That it means once it's running well, and like there are training up agency heads, certain Doge employees will be permanent government employees, yada, yada, yada. He doesn't have to be there micromanaging it, just like he doesn't have to micromanage all his other businesses.
And I love that he doesn't need any of them. Like, the fact that they can't get their hooks into him is driving them nuts.
Well, man. And it also defies like the conventional stereotypes you might get from somebody who's even a populist, if not a leftist, like just the dirty, rotten profit motive and all this stuff. And I believe in the Tesla IPO, they're like, we want to make money, but our number one goal is not to make profit. Like, we want to be profitable in a utilitarian sense so we can function and expand and invest and yada, yada, yada. But profit is not the goal here. Same thing with SpaceX. It's like, profit, we want to make money so we can continue to grow and research and innovate and all this stuff. But that's not the main goal. When you look at Tesla, when you look at SpaceX, they don't put patents. Or where they do, they're just protecting themselves from patent trolls. And those patents that they do file are completely free for anybody else to use. They're open.
If you can go do it.
Yes. And his point is like, if I'm sitting here relying on a patent to protect my technology, then I'm not innovating enough.
He's advancing, man. If he's worried about protecting that, he's focused on his last accomplishment. And that's not, to me, I don't think that's what drives him. That's not who he is.
So, I love seeing that Musk is still occupying the brains of so many who are so worried about everything going on in this beautiful country of ours.
Do you think that could someone else do what he's doing? Do other people have the technical ability to accomplish what he can do? I mean, honestly, could the government...
back to those books, or like say the biography I read, Walter Isaacson's biography. No, I think in the whole premise of Isaacson's biography is he does have demons. He does have a dark side, but it's sort of a package deal.
Yeah.
And so, no, I think there are plenty of very smart people he surrounds himself with who are dedicated and who he's brought into Doge. Like recently, a key figure in the book I just read is Antonio Gracias. And there's Antonio Gracias in Wisconsin laying out what they've found in Social Security. And he's like the wolf in Pulp Fiction. Like you got to call in Gracias and his team. Slept on the factory floor at Tesla when they were really in trouble, along with Elon. So you see plenty of smart people around him, but the unique combination of Musk, almost like a childlike naivety about we can accomplish these big things, He really does believe in one of the central messages of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's like, it's not the answer, then, well, what's the question? And so if we ask the right questions, maybe answering the right questions will lead us in ways that we never thought were possible.
Elon strikes me as the kind of guy who asks, why not first?
Right.
Like that's, to me, I think probably how he approaches most, situations problematic. Why can't, why hasn't the federal government performed this function?
Well, and I think this is exactly the mentality we need. Like using, say, space exploration as an example, SpaceX's theory is like, yeah, rockets are going to blow up. We, in fact, want to push things to the limit. We want to iterate in real time, and that will mean literally public explosions that people will mock or whatever. Whereas NASA's approach, or, and to their credit, the United Launch Alliance is a perfect launch record. Their approach is, no, we don't iterate at all. We're going to do cost plus contracts, and we're going to go slow. We don't make any mistakes. Though Boeing made mistakes with their Starliner, and thus those astronauts had to be rescued. But no, we need to have more of a mentality of, it's worth breaking things a little bit. I think this mentality, you see it through Trump's tariff moves. We're going to break the status quo a little bit, even though it causes short-term pain for longer-term gain.
Growth is never comfortable, right?
Exactly right. Whether you're building muscle or you're trying to kick a bad habit or anything you do in life, growth and anything meaningful is not going to be easy.
One of my favorite pieces of old wisdom is anything worth having is hard.
You're here. Well, but then I'm sitting here contradicting myself in my own head. I'm like, there are certain things in life that are just like the sky is blue, and that's nice.
Well, that's God.
Yeah, there are things that are just nice, and it is good to stop and smell the roses every once in a while. But you're right. In terms of the deeply meaningful things that you look back and go, I'm glad I did that. Yeah, it's not going to be easy. Never going to be easy.
Relationships are hard. Business is hard.
Right.
That's why we get up.
I mean, in this job, it's so hard. It's so hard every day I come in.
Putting up with some of us can be hard. You do yeoman's work, man.
No, I am truly blessed to have this gig for the time being. This part of the program brought to you by Montgomery Men's Health, and they're at Montgomery Men's Health. They're ready to help you fellas out. If you're feeling run down and tired, you just don't feel like yourself. In fact, you're haunted by past memories of your old self, where you could go all day, all night, all-nighters, wake up the next day, hit the ground running, and it's like now you're falling asleep after lunch. Like, hey, that sandwich was too big. I got to go to sleep. You have no sex drive to speak of, unwanted weight gain, loss of muscle mass. A lot of this, especially together, could signal low testosterone. So why not stop by Montgomery Men's Health? The professionals there will conduct a testosterone-focused lab workup plus a consultation for only $99. And they have treatments there at Montgomery Men's Health, low-T treatments that can truly change men's lives. Men can experience after treatment higher energy, better gains in the gym. Brother. That's right, brother. Better mental clarity. Improve sleep patterns. That's a big deal right there. If you're not sleeping well, you need to. A faster metabolism, and you usually even notice an increased libido, which also pretty big deal. So you can actually book the same date you call. Call them up today at 440-3663. That's 440-3663. Or go to MontgomeryMen'sHealth.com to book your appointment today. Again, that's 334-272-9228 if you want to get in on the conversation. Yeah, there's a lot that Trump said yesterday when he's revealing the tariff list and all the countries and whatnot. But sometimes it's the non-substantive. It's more the stylistic flourishes of Trump that just make me go, really? Really? Did he just say that?
Oh, he probably did.
It is absolutely hilarious. Especially stuff that's off prompter. You're like, what are you doing? What are you doing, Mr. President? I know. I agree. So here's what I'm talking about. It's a simple thing. It's not a long clip. It's not a big deal. It doesn't matter at all. And this is why I love this to the moon and back. Let's listen in together.
Likewise, an old-fashioned term that we use, groceries. I used it in the campaign. It's such an old-fashioned term, but a beautiful term, groceries. It sort of says a bag with different things in it. Groceries went through the roof. And I campaigned on that. I talked about the word groceries for a lot.
It's such an old-fashioned term. It's a bag with a lot of things in it.
I had a buddy who he would always say, "Going to make groceries" when he was going to cook dinner. And
Goodness!
I was like,
I
man,
don't think that's the right.
if that's not your grandmother saying that, like I could, that's just one of those, he grew up hearing it, and that's just how he referred to it. But he was going to make some groceries.
But here's the big, like fancy White House announcement of all, like it was about an hour long presentation. So here's the like sizzle reel they created.
I was surprised that Vietnam's was 40+%. I thought that China's would have the highest.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, it's because, well, Vietnam's kind of used as a way to smuggle, let's say, Chinese goods.
Yeah.
But this is the big sizzle reel the White House put out today.
This is one of the most important days, in my opinion, American history. It's our Declaration of Economic Independence. My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day. April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again. American steel workers, auto workers, farmers, and skilled craftsmen watched in anguish as foreign leaders have stolen our jobs, foreign cheaters have ransacked our factories, and foreign scavengers have torn apart our once beautiful American dream. Our country and its taxpayers have been ripped off for more than 50 years, but it is not going to happen anymore. We are finally putting America first. In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world. We will supercharge our domestic industrial base. We will pry open foreign markets and break down foreign trade barriers. More production at home will mean stronger competition and lower prices. From this day on, we're not going to let anyone tell us that American workers and families cannot have the future that they deserve. We're going to produce the cars and ships, chips, airplanes, minerals, and medicines that we need right here in America. We're going to build our future with American hands, with American heart. This will be indeed the golden age of America.
Okay, while we were watching that, Byron, you held up your arm. You're like,
I got chill bumps, man. I still have them. I'm as proud as I can be right now. His line, we've been getting ripped off for 50 years. That's the most honest thing I've heard a politician say in my lifetime.
and yeah, Wall Street doesn't like it right now. But let's see. Let's let it play out at least for, let's say, another year. We'll see. Let's check back in a year.
Maybe longer.
No,
I mean,
but
if we're having an honest conversation about this, it has been about 50 years that we've been going down the wrong path economically.
Oh, yeah. But no, I think you can correct it, though, pretty quickly.
If they want to, if we will experience the sharp pain necessary, it will be short.
Well, and you're already seeing oil prices come way down.
Mm-hmm.
The yield on the 10-year Treasury, where they're trying to get it under 4%, so they were left with a lot of debt that was maturing, and they needed to issue more at ridiculous rates. They needed lower rates. There is a lot of things they want. The Treasury Secretary, Trump himself, Commerce Secretary, yada, 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 have said they're going for it. Looks like this is all part of the plan. And in the next hour and so, we'll be playing a lot of clips from these folks, kind of hear them out. Here's what their plan is. If you're freaking out about something like a 401k or your investments in a single day, you're thinking of it the wrong way, in my humble opinion. Or maybe you just disagree. Maybe you think this is a tax, this is a tax increase, and you don't like it. But we'll see. If this is the tax increase and then you cut taxes on individuals within the country, I'd take that trade.
Tax increase on what?
Well, on all sorts of goods and
on
products.
all sorts of goods.
Yeah.
Some goods.
Right. We can hit this break. We'll be right back.
Want to carry News Talk in your pocket? Download the News Talk 93.1 app from the App Store. Available on iPhone and Android. Never miss a moment. Download now.
Good morning. Do you have time for lunch today? My treat.
Absolutely. But what's the occasion?
I'm in love with the new 24/7 Express kiosk at Worth Cleaners. The kiosk is so easy to use, and I can drop off and pick up on my schedule. Thank you for sharing that tip with me.
You're welcome. I'm happy to have my lunch buddy back.
Have you tried the new Worth Cleaners 24/7 Express kiosk? This is the first service of its kind in Montgomery. Customers love the convenience of dropping off and picking up dry cleaning and laundry on their schedule, day or night, 365 days a year. Even if you've never used Worth Cleaners before, you can go to their location at 7825 Vaughn Road today and use their 24/7 Express kiosk. Instructions along with several descriptive photos are posted on the wall next to the kiosk to aid customers who are first-time users. Give it a try. Visit our Vaughn Road location or find Worth Cleaners on Facebook for more information. Your family's clothing is worth it.
This is your roving reporter, and today I am talking with an elk. Hey man, Mr. Elk, I was just wondering, what do elk do to take care of their money? Well, like most smart folks, we call David Ernest. You mean Alabama's most favorite asset preservationist? That's him, man. We call him up at 334-279-7431 or 205-479-0839. I see. Yes, he is our preferred money man. The money man with the money plan. You've been paying attention. Well, could you give us those numbers one more time? 334-279-7431 or 205-479-0839. And I just want to try to give you a heads up, man. Oh, what's that? I'm not an elk. Not an elk, huh? Well, then, pray tell, what are you? Knights of Columbus. I am not even going to make a comment. Well, the baby liked it.
Hello there. This is Dr. Sam, account executive with Blue Water Broadcasting. Why should you advertise with us? Well, radio is the #1 reach medium, and it's everywhere in cars, offices, homes, gyms, and even in stores. Radio advertising can efficiently get your message across to a large number of people. Contact me, Dr. Sam, by going to BlueWaterBroadcasting.com to find out more. Blue Water Broadcasting, local folks helping local business.
News and talk without the static. The River Region's most trusted voice. News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back. Let's go right to the phones and talk to Soldier Boy. Hey, Soldier Boy.
Hey, it's time to take Sam Walton out of cryogenics, okay?
There you go.
It's his time. I read his book is actually very good, too. His children are such, oh, my God, they're like Joe Biden's kids. Losers.
Yeah, usually these great men that build these empires, the next generation is not, if you're betting, they're not great compared to their father.
No, they're not creators. They're just users and expanders. That's all they are. They don't create anything. You know what's funny is you ever watched when I was stationed. This is like 40 years ago. Okay, when I was stationed my first assignment in Germany, they had a bunch of TVs and you could buy which one you wanted, and they all had the same. They had the one I wanted was the Sony Trinitron, and then they had a TV made by Grundig, which is a German television, and they also had one made by Philips, which is a German company too. And they had a RCA and a Magnavox, American company at that time, okay? And I asked the guy, I was like, what's basically the difference? I said, man, Sony Trinitron is a killer, and so is American television. And why? He says, what it is, it's a value-added tax. It's the same thing we were talking about tariffs. I was paying it and didn't even know what the damn word was, didn't know I was paying it. But it was funny because I said, what happens to the extra money? He says, it goes back to the government gives it back that tax money, the difference, and they give it back to the German companies for the German workers to secure their jobs so that their companies won't fall or anything like that. They help them out. That's what the tariffs did back then, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I was paying back then. For example, Germany. You ever been to Germany before?
I have not.
Germany. Okay. You drive 90% of the cars you will find are BMWs and Mercedes.
Right.
Now over here, they're like a status symbol. How is it that 90% of the cars over there? So I asked the guy, I said, how do you know who's the rich thing? Everybody's got a freaking 7 Series Beamer, you know? He goes, oh, it's simple. Look for the guy who has a Harley Davidson or the Corvette.
Yeah. Well, and also, I guess the Volkswagen's big over there, too.
Yeah. But it's funny because I look at them. Well, they're not as popular, believe it or not, the Volkswagens are not. Peugeots from France, or you see a lot of Peugeots because they're low economical, Citroens, stuff like that. But it was funny as I asked him, I said, what do you mean Harley Davidson? He says, you can buy anything you want over here, but they're going to charge you through the nose in taxes to have the right to own it. If you see somebody with a Corvette, it's like one out of every 30 cars in the United States. Over there, you'd be lucky you'll see a Ferrari or Lamborghini before you see a Corvette because they make you pay for taxes. So
Exactly.
These countries been doing this for years.
Oh yeah, no, and
Why
Trump's
would they
saying we're resetting the entire global tariff schedule, and it's going to be fascinating to watch this play out because I think there are going to be some big players who want to renegotiate the deal, and in fact will become stronger allies after the fact. And this is not just about protecting American workers, so that's a big part of it, and bringing back, say, American manufacturing. You're also, I think this is part of a larger geopolitical strategy that admitting the so-called unipolar moment, the international liberal world order is over. We're entering a multipolar world. We're about to find out who our real friends are, and we want to deal with our real friends as we go forward to especially rebalance against China.
We used to be creators and makers, okay? Now all we do, we're users. That's all we do. We use everything, you know? And nobody wants to get mad at us because of that. I mean, look, for example, didn't Mr. Trump bring down the corporate tax over here to bring businesses back?
Sure.
Okay.
No, and that's the big tax package they're working on is going to do 100% expensing. I mean, the Republicans in the Congress need to get on this and get on it quick and pass this agenda because it needs to all work together. You need to reduce taxes on Americans and taxes in particular on American investment and manufacturing. So that's where you get those jobs. So it's a 1-2. It's the carrot and the stick in combination that's going to make this economy hum. And I think it'll be faster than folks realize.
Well, we used to be the country of manufacturing, right?
Sure. Well, we were the only game in town post World War II. So
that's what I'm saying. I'm like, wait, we're like the leftover got left behind.
Right.
I tell you, when he says Americans are getting, I mean, look at us getting screwed in NATO. We carry more in our weight on NATO than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Did you see where Germany put their troops for the first time in about 40 years?
Oh, right.
Almost like it had a positive effect.
Oh, they're letting us have weapons again.
How about United Nations? Who carries the brunt of that tax?
Oh yeah,
bill?
No, and we're resetting the table, and I like the approach. I got to run, Soldier Boy. Appreciate the call as always.
All right, later.
Again, 272-9228 if you want to get on the conversation. That's 334-272-9228. Coming up, we'll get into some Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, Howard Lutnick, VP J.D. Vance, also continuing to defend the whole tariff strategy. We have an amazing clip. I didn't know because everybody's sharing all these great scenes. We were just talking about it off air, Byron, of Val Kilmer after his passing. All these great movies. But apparently in 2013, Val Kilmer did a one-man Mark Twain show where he traveled the nation in character as Mark Twain. Got a clip of that, and it's just fantastic.
How did that go so under the radar?
I don't know. It's so good. So we got a lot to get to today. And again, Jeff Dice, former chief of staff for Ron Paul, joining us at 2. Young man named Brylan Hollyhand. He's a student there at the University of Alabama, very active in the youthful GOP and working with a lot of young activists around the nation. He will be joining us at 2:30. So looking forward to that. Y'all stay tuned. More after this.
Broadcasting from the Riverside Chevrolet Master Control Center, this is WACV Cusana, News Talk 93.1 FM. When it's Chevy, it's Riverside.
With SRN News, I'm John Scott. A deadly severe weather system continues to charge east and is expected to tear across more than a dozen states, from parts of Texas to the densely populated mid-Atlantic and Northeast, placing over 55 million Americans directly in the path of its destructive forces. 2 people have reportedly been killed in Tennessee due to the weather. The death toll from the massive earthquake that hit Myanmar nearly a week ago has now risen to 3,145. As search and rescue teams find more bodies, thousands are injured and many are still unaccounted for. On the battlefront, the fresh wave of Israeli strikes overnight at the Gaza Strip. Israel has vowed to escalate the nearly 18-month war with Hamas until the terrorist group returns dozens of remaining hostages. This is SRN News.
Just hearing the word IRS can make people break out in a cold sweat. No one wants to deal with the IRS, and now you don't have to. The good news is Legal Tax Defense has been successfully negotiating with the IRS for more than 15 years. It doesn't matter how much you owe, whether it's $5,000 or $5 million. You deserve the best in the business on your side, and that is Legal Tax Defense. Even if you're working with someone else and just want a second opinion, there is no cost or obligation to call. They can prevent levies, liens, wage garnishments, even file back tax returns. And the best news about Legal Tax Defense is they won't take your case unless they know they will reduce or eliminate your tax debt. Call Legal Tax Defense right now for a free, no-risk consultation. 800-292-7875. 800-292-7875. You have nothing to lose, but everything to gain. 800-292-7875.
Rich Thomas Weather, a service of Wiley Sanders Truck Lines, where over-the-road dump truck drivers are needed right now. Home twice a week and every weekend, must leave early on Sunday with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Call them now at 855-777-9785.
Rich Thomas Weather.
We are flirting with record high temperatures again today and tomorrow. In fact, the record for today is 87 from 2015, and I've got us in the upper 80s to near 90, so we should break it. A sun and cloud mix. Really more like early June than April. Partly cloudy, very mild tonight, overnight low 68. Risk of showers begins Saturday, still warm, but late Saturday night in the overnight hours and particularly Sunday, yet another severe weather threat. And all modes of severe weather are possible. We're keeping an eye on it. From the National Tropical Weather Conference, South Padre Island, Texas, Rich Thomas for Blue Water Broadcasting.
You can make your ASC loan payments from your phone anytime, anywhere. It's quick and easy. www.yourasccu.com. Federally insured by NCUA.
ASC Credit Union. Your life, your cause, your ASC.
From the Blue Water Broadcasting News Center, here's today's top stories. One person was seriously injured in a Tuesday night house fire in Montgomery. Firefighters responded to the 3600 block of Nottingham Drive just before 9 p.m., where heavy smoke and flames could be seen coming from the home. A resident was rescued from the blaze and taken to Baptist South for treatment of severe burns. The cause of the fire remains under investigation. Montgomery Mayor Stephen Reed gave an update on 911 call center issues on Wednesday. Reed admitted the quality of service provided was not up to par, explaining it was difficult to find the right employees for the job. Mayor Reed added that the city is also working on retaining 911 operators through improving the culture and offering better financial incentives. After being closed for almost a year, the Autauga County Jail inmates will return to the facility this fall. The jail was closed due to excessive mold buildup, causing Sheriff Mark Harrell to shut the facility down and move inmates to other counties. The jail is scheduled to reopen in November when the $15 million remodeling project is completed. From the Blue Water Broadcasting News Center, I'm Sky Mosley.
This hour of news and views is brought to you by our good friends at Alabama Home Mortgage. Alabama Home Mortgage, 567-4223. Visit them on the web at myalabamahomemortgage.com. NMLS number 1586368. An equal housing lender.
The Tierce family has been your local Roto-Rooter service since 1964. Drain cleaning, plumbing repair, and those troublesome septic tanks, no problem. Technology has changed a bit in the last 54 years. Video inspections of lines to locate problems is available, as well as scheduling your appointment online. River Region residents have trusted Roto-Rooter for over half a century. You can too. Call today at 272-7130 or visit online at rotorooteralabama.com.
Call Roto-Rooter, that's the name, and away go troubles down the drain. Roto-Rooter.
Biscuits Baseball is back in 2025 with opening weekend presented by the Vance Law Firm. It's from Friday, April 4th to Sunday, April 6th. It all starts opening night with a pregame block party and a Max fireworks show. On Saturday, fans can watch another edition of postgame Max fireworks. Sunday, there's a visit from Bluey at the ballpark. And remember to wear your blue. It's a blue out all weekend. For tickets and information, visit biscuitsbaseball.com or call the box office at 323-BALL.
The views and opinions of the following program are solely those of the host and other contributors. These do not necessarily represent those of Liberty Acquisitions 825, Blue Water Broadcasting, its management, staff, or any advertisers. It's time for Montgomery's conversational radio show. It's news and views on News Talk 93.1 FM. To join the conversation, call 272-9228.
This is how you conduct yourself in a democracy. I'm a better looking person than Kamala.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back to the program. I'm your host, Joey Clark. Second hour underway. Byron Shee hanging out a little longer here in the studio today.
This is also from last weekend.
And before we jump back into all the fighting over the tariffs and Liberation Day and all that, let's play this Val Kilmer clip because we got talking off air. You're throwing some movies at me I've never seen that you're like, oh, you got to check this one out.
Yeah. The Salton Sea.
The Salton Sea.
Salton. Salton Sea.
Huh. And it's a revenge movie.
Oh, great revenge flick.
So check that out then. Of course, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, fantastic movie. Shane Black, right? Yeah, a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
Tombstone, classic. Top Gun, Heat.
Wonderland. Wonderland was hard.
I think the Doors movie, he pulls off Morrison quite well.
I'm not a Morrison guy. So, yeah, he did a great Jim Morrison.
You know, and I think he made a bet with the director, listen to, I'm going to record on top of karaoke track, and you listen to the original tracks, listen to the karaoke, and you tell me if you can tell the difference.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't tell the difference, I get to sing live. And he got to sing live. But here is a lesser-known thing Val Kilmer did. In 2013, again, he portrayed a one-man show as Mark Twain. You know, a lot of folks have done this, and I guess Twain used to do this himself. And a lot of actors have taken this up over the years. But here's just a fun story. You might remember the punchline at the end, but this is Val Kilmer doing Mark Twain.
Children and idiots. I know this is true because I've tested the theory. Yeah, when I was about 11 years old, a year before my father died, I had a terrible teacher, Mrs. Strickling. She used to stand in front of our class with the switch behind her back. One day she was staring right at me and said, "Now then, class, are there any idiots in the room? And if there are, to please stand up." Well, after quite a long silence, I stood up. "Oh, my," said young Sammy Clemens, "why do you feel that you are an idiot?" I said, "Actually, I don't, ma'am. I just hate to see you standing up there all by yourself." Nailed her. She came at me with that switch. She was going to tear my hide off. Then she cornered me behind my desk. I was always sitting in the back. She discovered I was writing a sentence into my wooden desk with my pen knife. She said, "What is that sentence? What is that sentence?" I said, "It's an epitaph, ma'am, for the good children of the Laguna Playhouse in November 2013. It reads, 'Children, never let schooling interfere with your education.'"
You could tell he was having so much fun doing that.
Yeah, 2013, 2014. And now that's, I mean, he's Juilliard trained, right? He was. Yeah.
I mean, he's a phenomenal actor, man.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, then there was a detour into Batman. Not as bad as the George Clooney one.
They were all miserable.
You didn't like the original with Tim Burton, Michael Keaton?
I love those.
Oh, those are great.
I'm talking the Poison Ivy.
And Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze, and and then the Christopher Nolan ones are pretty good. The third one jumps the shark a little bit.
I love the Nolan films.
But yeah, Well, may that guy rest in peace. I know a lot of folks are probably rewatching these movies, and you forget sometimes how good these performances are. So, like, I've seen it before. The really good movies, they grip you every time, take you to a different place, and you're just transfixed.
The Ghost in the Darkness, underrated.
I've never seen that. The Ghost in the Darkness,
based on a true story about hunting lions in Africa.
Well, I'll have to check that out.
That is a phenomenal movie.
Now, let's get into the defense of all the tariff stuff. But first, let's hear what the opposition is saying. MSNBC, would you believe that? Here's the summary quote. MSNBC on Trump tariffs. I don't think there's a single positive take on this. This is all just bad. It's bad.
She got the memo. I mean,
well, this is just Mika Brzezinski. It must have been on Morning Joe this morning asking their economics
just
person.
Mika being Mika.
Yeah, I don't think even Mika's the one who said it, but let's listen in.
Walk us through the numbers, and is there any positive take on this?
Well, I can answer the second question first. I don't think there's a single positive take on this. This is all just bad. It's bad, as we talked about before, for inflation. It's bad for economic growth. It's bad for everything. But let me put this a little bit in perspective. We talked about the stock market today and how bad a day it's going to have. This chart predates that, and it goes back really to the election. And I wanted to show you, because Trump's got a bunch, as we also talked briefly about before, of other economic and challenges he's facing. And so the stock market, which is this red line, our stock market, we start out here, and he was doing pretty well after the election. There was this burst of Trump euphoria, as we saw in 2016 as well. But since Inauguration Day, it has basically been straight down for our stock market. And that is a combination of anticipation of these tariffs, but also just all the chaos and commotion down there, the cutting, the Doge, all this stuff, and the uncertainty has really scared the market. And that's actually in stark contrast. China, which has had a terrible run in its stock market, has actually done exceptionally well. And even Europe, which is certainly nothing to brag about on the economic front, has way outperformed us. So Trump had a set of challenges already, as represented by the stock market before. And again, before yesterday, because we don't have updated numbers just yet, economists were taking down their projections for the economy for this year. So Goldman Sachs thinks that unemployment, which they thought was going to be 4%, they now think is going to be 4.5%. And these numbers are going to get worse when they put out a new forecast. Inflation, which they thought was going to be between 2 and 2.5%, they now think is going to be almost 3.5%.
Now, here's the dirty little secret. From watching Peter St. Onge, I asked Austin Barenko with Invista about it yesterday, is like, when it comes to these forecasts and predictions, you can make it say whatever you want. And it's kind of fascinating how the folks that really don't like Trump changing the status quo think, oh, this is awful. It's just going to be the end of the world. It's the worst thing ever. And then you've got folks that are more following along of the plan that the Trump administration is laying out. No, I think we're going to have a pretty rosy growth after a little bit of pain.
So you mean truth, lies, and damn statistics? In other words?
Yeah. Lies, damn lies, and statistics.
Yeah.
Now, let's go to another nerd. Let's start with the nerds here. This is the Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary Bessent. He was asked last night after the big ceremony in the Rose Garden, well, what's going on with this, Treasury Secretary? Lay it out for us.
Rose Garden. Let's get reaction to the president's tariff plan and progress of his big, beautiful bill going forward. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent joins us now. Thank you for being here.
Right. Good to see you.
It was a big day. The president calls it Liberation Day. You know, we showed the markets before, but if you saw the post-market reaction, it was kind of down across the board. You know, people are looking at their 401ks and they worry about it. What do you say to them tonight?
Brett, I say that what we are doing is we're setting the stage for long-term economic growth, that we were on our way to a financial crisis. You know, I used to teach a history of financial crises, and with that gigantic government spending, it was unsustainable. You look back in 1998, you look back in 2007, right before it looked great, everything collapsed. So, I mean, it looked great right before everything collapsed. So we have taken us off that trajectory, and we are putting ourselves back onto a sound trajectory.
You said 10% over 10 years would be $2.5 trillion coming in. You know, you look at this list of all these countries, and there's some policy decisions here. China is at 34%, added to the 20% already. So that's 54% on Chinese goods.
Yes.
Are they going to come back with something big?
Well, we'll see what they do. Is my advice to every country right now is do not retaliate. Sit back. Take it in. Let's see how it goes, because if you retaliate, there will be escalation. If you don't retaliate, this is the high watermark.
So also not in the list.
That's really interesting. This is the high watermark if you don't retaliate, which suggests it could go lower. Let's talk.
I just love how retaliate. I was thinking from the consumer standpoint. So internally, I was like, hell yeah, retaliate. Buy American, buy USA. You know, do retaliate, push back against. Like, I just took it from our vantage point instead of theirs naturally.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Now moving to another less nerdy, but still deep and very much a longtime friend of the president is Howard Lutnick. I believe he was on CNN this morning. And, well, here's how Lutnick was defending some of the actions on Liberation Day.
Counting the factories that are going to be built. President Trump yesterday announced $5 trillion in domestic commitments to build factories in America, right? Remember, domestic production, GDP. People forget, if you buy a Toyota that's made in Japan, that's not domestic production. Domestic production is factories built here. So you've got $5 trillion committed to be building factories in America, and that's going to drive growth. If you divide that by our $30 trillion economy, that's a whole lot of growth, and you're going to get that starting in the fourth quarter, and that's going to drive this U.S. economy because it's American workers who are going to build those factories.
So again, he focusing on the last thing he said, fourth quarter.
Where did the 5T come from?
Private investment from
is that
foreign companies investing in the U.S.
Is that like shovels in the ground or talks on the table?
No, like we're building
shovels in the ground.
Yes. Now, some of this is relying on the Republicans in the Congress passing like full 100% expensing, no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security. You can how about this? It can completely deduct all interest payments on a vehicle, which is fantastic.
Phenomenal.
Like, and so there's a big fight in the Congress we could get into in a second over exactly how that's going to be working out. Honestly, there's so many moving parts when you're talking about the House and the Senate and how this is actually going to get done. It's difficult to follow, even if you read far and wide in the news. We'll see what the Congress comes up with, but keep this in mind. I think the tariffs might be a negotiating tactic, not just against foreign nations, but against Republicans in the Congress who don't want to play ball.
May not have a choice.
And yesterday, the Senate Majority Leader, John Thune, was at the White House talking this through.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit symbolic. He was there on this day. It's a leverage point against all sorts of players is the idea here. But Lutnick continues. And he makes the case, I think a lot of folks in this part of the world with the textile factories,
mm-hmm.
like you were talking about your own father just a second ago off air.
Mm-hmm.
Before I play this, whatever you want to share with the audience.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't have any problem sharing that. So my father worked for Van Heusen. Like a lot of, rural folks in Alabama grew up working in a textile plant. And about 1988, 1989-ish, Van Heusen's management brought him in and said, Johnny, you got two options. You can either look for a new job or you can move your family to Guatemala. So we broke out a map and figured out where Guatemala was. To know, and part of the reason I got chill bumps was to know that my life was impacted in such a way that now people won't have to, those good jobs will be here at home. You won't have to travel overseas to make a living. And people who are, kind of trapped in those rural communities, the opportunity will be brought to them, and instead of putting the onus on them to go out and make their way in, this hard, mean world where they don't have the real means to do so. Like, how are you going to tell someone, like, yeah, just pick your entire family up, move to Birmingham, and get a job? That's not realistic for a lot of folks.
For a lot of folks, it isn't.
So to have some opportunity in these rural communities, that's what makes my heart happy.
Now, here's the Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, talking about why is U.S. policy. Well, Let's just listen in.
Finally changing U.S. policy to protect American workers is what Donald Trump is all about. So what you're going to see is factories going to be built here. Why should U.S. policy basically suggest that you can find the cheapest labor in the world with the worst labor conditions in the whole wide world, the worst, pollution, right? No environmental rules at all. Let's go build there because it's really cheap and we'll sell it to the great American economy. How about we build it here? We use robotics here. It's cheaper than cheap labor overseas. You're going to see something completely different. You're going to see the greatest economy in the world. The Renaissance will be the greatest factories in the world. High tech people. What are the jobs Americans are going to have? We are going to have mechanics who fix robotics. We're going to have engineers and electricians who work on these great high-tech factories. These are high-tech jobs. All you need is a high school education and training, and they're going to have great jobs, great paying, and this is who Donald Trump is going to build for.
And again, thinking about, like, you look at the high tech, there are only so many people working directly on the AI factory or the new auto factories. But especially AI is going to demand more and more energy production. So you're going to get a lot of projects, a lot more infrastructure out of that, and a lot more opportunities out of that. Again, they're making a lot of boasts that this is what's going to happen. Lutnick there in particular said, look at the fourth quarter. Look at the fourth quarter of this fiscal year. That's when you're going to really start to see the boom take off. We'll see. I keep saying if that boom has not happened by July of next year, July 4th, 2026, the 250th anniversary of this country, our 250th birthday, then Trump and team are going to have to eat crow, and that means probably losing big in midterms.
Man,
but if it is booming by that 250th birthday, that is going to be one of the biggest birthday bashes known in human history.
Joe, if that 5T number is real,
yeah,
if it's actually real, then I don't have any doubt that we will be humming at some point. It may not be by July the 4th, but if we're sitting at a 30T total, and you tell me that we're coming in with 5T more added on top of that, that's substantial, my friend.
Now here's JD Vance answering questions this morning. And again, all the main, mouthpieces and persuaders of the Trump administration, Vance being, I think, top among them, have been hitting the media airwaves. Here's Vance on Fox News this morning answering all these questions.
How you get manufacturing here, but also get the cost down for the American people.
Well, if you go back a little bit, Lawrence, remember during the first Trump administration, everybody said that Trump's tariffs were going to be inflationary back then. And what actually happened? We had 1.5% inflation. We had the fastest growing economy in a generation. And we had the beginning of a manufacturing renaissance in the United States of America. Then, of course, we had 4 terrible years of the Biden administration. But I think it's useful for all of us to step back and ask ourselves, what has the globalist economy gotten the United States of America? And the answer is fundamentally it's based on 2 principles: incurring a huge amount of debt to buy things that other countries make for us. And to make it a little bit more crystal clear, we borrow money from Chinese peasants to buy the things those Chinese peasants manufacture. That is not a recipe for economic prosperity. It's not a recipe for low prices, and it's not a recipe for good jobs in the United States of America. For 40 years, we have gone down that pathway. We've seen closing factories. We've seen rising inflation. We've seen the cost of housing so high that most Americans can't afford to buy a home right now. President Trump is taking this economy in a different direction. He ran on that. He promised it, and now he's delivering. And yes, this is a big change. I'm not going to shy away from it, but we needed a big change, Lawrence. We cannot keep going down the Joe Biden globalist pathway where we have $2 trillion of peacetime debt and deficits. We have manufacturing disappearing. That is not working for Americans. We've got to take this country in a different direction.
And, you said on Tuesday, Byron, that there's going to have to be some tax raise. And this is the idea. Doge is cutting $1 trillion. Then we're going to raise $1 trillion in revenue. A lot of this will be on, I think, through the tariffs. Some will come down. Everybody thinks, that's going to all be passed on to the consumer, especially the average middle-class American. But when you look at, say, the ones that did on China, China is so dependent on its exports. I think 80% of the tariffs he put on the first time that Biden kept, 80% of those tariff costs were eaten by the Chinese. So you kind of work both ways. You're going to defend the country, incentivize more manufacturing and investment actually in America, but you're also going to be raising revenue that we need to anyway because of the deficit and the debt. But you're sending the right carrot stick signals that actually make this thing hum.
Plus all the savings and all the fraudulent spending. I mean, the fact that people haven't risen up with pitchforks after finding out some of those numbers is kind of impressive. Good job, y'all. Way to hold it back.
Let's go to Jim on line one. Hey, Jim.
Hey, you know what's really sad about this thing is that we have Americans in our government that are just hoping this fails. They were willing to sacrifice this country just to get rid of Trump. That's just disgusting.
It's true.
They've been selling us out for a long time. They got a lot of investors in our failure.
You know, you're talking about businesses. What's the plant over there in Wetumpka, Russell? That huge plant. That where'd they go, to Mexico with that thing?
I don't know.
That business.
I remember just about every little league jersey I had used to have Russell on it.
I remember that too.
Yep.
Yeah. And I had when I had my sales territory down in Laverne, I had a little restaurant right across the street from, it was Vanity Fair. Vanity Fair, they made women, you know, stuff like that. You know, Vanity Fair, big booming plant. And they moved that out of the country.
Yep.
Just so hopefully they can get that stuff back and get that business back up there. But it just ticks me off, these guys, and especially these Democrats. Some of these leaders they'd sell their soul to the devil, and I think they already have.
Oh yeah, this is long.
Well, and their approval rating, they're caught in a vicious cycle, a death spiral, even where there are folks leaving them because they're not fighting Trump hard enough, and there are folks now ignoring them because they're fighting Trump too hard. So they're kind of in a tough spot. Their approval ratings are miserable as a party.
In the crap, yeah. But I think this, you know, I've got my retirement stuff in the stock market. I'm retired now, but it's taken a little beating today. But
oh, sure.
You got to look at the long run. You can't look at the stock market every day and go, because they're going to buy and they're going to sell, and it's going to be up and down. But a lot of this money in the stock market, the last 4 years, being propped up by all this crap from the Biden administration.
Correct.
And when you start getting real revenue and you know, invested in the stock market, real money, it'll change. It's going to be fun.
Well, I appreciate the call, Jim. We'll all be watching and talking about it together.
Thanks, Jim.
272-9228. You got to run?
I got to run, man.
All right. Well, good seeing you. Thanks for stopping by.
Report back.
This part of the program brought to you by, well, Cole Plumbing. James Cole and Cole Plumbing. Fantastic folks there at Cole Plumbing. They can help you with any and all of your plumbing needs right there in the name. They work on plumbing stuff. But what I mean by that is it could be everyday problems like a clogged drain or low water pressure. Could be you want to upgrade to, say, a tankless water heater system, or want to add new accessories to the kitchen or the bathroom. Maybe you want a taller toilet, or it's time for a new garbage disposal. They can help you with all of that there at Cole Plumbing. And, of course, they can help you when you get the big problem, when you get the gas line leak, when you get the big old water leak inside or outside your home. And they have the proprietary pipelining technology there at Cole Plumbing that allows them to get in there and solve the problem with precision, expertise, with minimal discomfort to you and your home. What does that mean? It means they're not going to have to tear out a bunch of drywall inside the home, make it a big old mess, or dig up a huge hole or trench outside in your yard. No, with precision and expertise, they know how to get the job done. So y'all check out Cole Plumbing today. You can always go to coleplumbing.com to book an appointment there. Just call them up at 279-8919. That's 279-8919. And just remember, folks, when you have trouble with your bowl, call on Cole. We'll be right back.
He may not know whether he's coming or going, but whether you're going to work or coming home, Greg Budell is there. Mornings, 6 till 9, and afternoons, 3 till 6. Only on News Talk 93.1 FM, WACV.
Montgomery Men's Health exists for guys who get it done. Let's talk, fellas. You solve problems all day at work. You fix your sink when it's broken, but when it comes to ED and low T, it doesn't get done. We get it. You hate going to the doctor, but you're the guy that fixes things. At Montgomery Men's Health, there's nothing to fear and no reason to delay. We've been destroying bedroom boredom for years. Our friendly, discreet team of medical providers will take the time to listen. So if you haven't fixed this, call us. When the pills fail, call us. If you feel like you've tried everything, call us. Here, there's hope. From the conventional to the next level. Imagine finally taking care of this with no surgery. Imagine going from feeling gray to living life in vibrant color. It's time to be confident. Join the thousands of guys who have found success after walking through our doors. Will you be one of them? Dial 334-440-3663 or go to MontgomeryMen'sHealth.com to schedule a $99 male performance consultation, including blood work. Do it for you. Do it for her. MontgomeryMen'sHealth.com. Book your appointment now.
For reliable electrical services in Central Alabama, trust the experts at Crosby Electric. Crosby's licensed and insured electricians are ready to tackle any project for your home, from troubleshooting, repairs, to installing new lighting and preventive maintenance. And Crosby understands the need for quality service for small business. Crosby is big enough for the largest job, yet small enough to bring real value. Visit CrosbyElectric.com to schedule your service. Crosby, powering Central Alabama with excellence.
Adams Drugs has been committed to the healthcare of the people of the River region for over 62 years. We value the trust each customer has in our pharmacists, techs, and entire staff. If you have not experienced the difference of Adams Drugs and are not satisfied with the customer service that you get in the big box stores, we invite you to visit any of our locations and see how committed we are to your satisfaction. Adams Drugs offers a variety of services that you will not find in all pharmacies in the River region. Personalized compounding, area-wide delivery, wellness screenings, immunizations, medication consultations, and specialized packaging, just to name a few. Visit us at our website, adamsdrugs.net, and find the location nearest you. Adams Drugs has 12 convenient locations to serve you. Your satisfaction is our #1 goal. Adams Drugs is your local Health Mart pharmacy. Health Mart, taking the time to listen and care.
This hour of news and views is brought to you by our good friends at Alabama Home Mortgage. Alabama Home Mortgage, 567-4223. Visit them on the web at myalabamahomemortgage.com. NMLS number 1586368. An equal housing lender.
The Rich Thomas Weather Network, brought to you by Montgomery Paint and Body. From little fender benders to total body repair, MPB will fix it good as new, maybe better. For 4 decades, the Turner family has been getting you back on the road. Call 279-7325.
Rich Thomas Weather.
We are flirting with record high temperatures again today and tomorrow. In fact, the record for today is 87 from 2015, and I've got us in the upper 80s to near 90, so we should break it. A sun and cloud mix. Really more like early June than April. Partly cloudy, very mild tonight, overnight low 68. Risk of showers begins Saturday, still warm, but late Saturday night in the overnight hours and particularly Sunday, yet another severe weather threat. And all modes of severe weather are possible. We're keeping an eye on it. From the National Tropical Weather Conference, South Padre Island, Texas, Rich Thomas for Blue Water Broadcasting.
Budget Floors and More is your low price leader for everything you need for flooring and DIY flooring installation supplies. For the best prices on luxury vinyl plank, carpet, ceramic tile, flooring installation supplies, and more, shop Budget Floors and More, Hunter Lane across from Del Rey to Publix.
The River Region's first and only news talk station on FM. Live, local talk. News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back. You're out there in Radio Land, and you want to watch the show or watch back a segment you only caught the tail end of or had to hop out of the car, you can always go to Joey Clark Live on YouTube or at the Joey Clark on X. Also watch on Facebook. Who really uses Facebook other than great, fun family photos and wholesome memes? Y'all check it out, especially like and subscribe on YouTube or follow me on X at the Joey Clark. This part of the program brought to you by Pest Pro Services, and they're at Pest Pro. Ashley and that fantastic team are ready to help you with any and all of your pest control services. I've been telling y'all, You don't want to play with fire when it comes to the termites. We're in the middle of termite season. You should have had that inspection already done. You shouldn't go long without having an inspection. It should be done on a regular basis. Why? Because that problem becomes more and more costly if those termites actually, as silent destroyers, eat away at your beloved property, at your beloved home. It's an awful problem to have. Why not just get ahead of it with Pest Pro Services? They'll come and on a regular basis be checking that out. Of course, they can do everyday pest control needs, especially depending on what you need in a particular season. And also, it's feel a little warmer today. You can walk outside with shorts and a t-shirt on. That means mosquitoes will soon be upon us if they aren't already here. And they can help you there at Pest Pro Services as well with those mosquito treatments. You can always go to ppsriverregion.com to find out more. Just search for Pest Pro Services on the Book of Faces. They have a very active Facebook page giving tips and tricks for the particular pest season that might be upon us. I think I need a little extra advice from them on how to deal with wasps. There are always wasps after me. I think wasps are my arch nemesis at this point. And I think they have some sort of collective knowledge. They know that how many wasps I killed. I don't know. They're always after me. But whatever is troubling you in terms of your pest control, they can help you there at Pest Pro Services. And if you look on their Facebook page, they do a Player of the Week. They're highlighting a student athlete, softball and baseball right now. And if you're looking to nominate a young person who's just had a really great game or a great display of leadership or sportsmanship, maybe a great high school career, direct message Pest Pro Services there on Facebook and nominate that young person. And of course, if you're looking for that top-notch pest control service, just call Pest Pro today at 265-9990. That's 265-9990. When you want to know, call a pro, Pest Pro Services. And be sure to tell them that Joey, that fellow on the radio, sent you. Now, there's one guy who was on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart recently and making a reasonable case, at least Stewart was hearing him out, that we just live in a different moment in general. It is time not only on trade, but in general to reset the table of America's relationship to the rest of the world. The consensus after, say, the end of the Cold War is falling apart. And it's about time that the United States changes the deal. And if you have the deal maker in chief in there, well, why not go ahead and get it done? So this gentleman's name is Orrin Cass. Again, I recently saw him there on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart laying this out, but I thought I'd read direct. This came out March 31st, 2025. America's 3 demands on the importance of knowing what you want and telling people. So let's begin with the premise, writes Orrin Cass. The cost to the United States of attempting to maintain the so-called liberal world order have come to outweigh the benefits. Perhaps they always did. Of course, it was the United States that chose, indeed largely dictated, this arrangement in the first place. But that does not preclude revisiting those choices as lessons get learned and conditions change. In the emerging multipolar world in which China will advance its own interests contrary to ours, we can and should ask more of the many allies who would strongly prefer our sphere to China's. We should treat our allies fairly and respectfully, and our demands should be reasonable. But the time has come to make them. Free access to the American market and partnership with us in national defense should be contingent upon, number 1. Here are the 3 demands. Number 1. Balanced trade. Balanced trade. The United States cherishes free markets and welcomes free trade with other market democracies. But the premise of mutually beneficial free trade is that it operates as trade. Countries exchanging things they can make and do best for the things others can make and do better. What we will not tolerate is the situation that we have encountered over the past several decades, where things that we once made in the United States move elsewhere. Not because those places have any genuine advantage in the production, and not because we are making more of something else once made elsewhere instead, but rather because countries make policy choices to expand their own manufacturing sector at America's expense. Some economists object that trade deficits simply emerge in nature and are no one's fault, or else that the real fault lies with the United States for running large budget deficits that lead us to borrow from around the world. To be sure, our budget deficit is a problem that we have an obligation to address. But the idea that these other countries don't want their trade surpluses and have not actively pursued them is absurd. With the United States committed to maintaining the liberal world order and taking bad advice from nearsighted economists, policymakers elsewhere acted secure in the knowledge that we would do nothing to stop them. And so the question becomes, what if those countries wanted something different? Or, more precisely, what if those countries found it in their best interest to pursue something different because staying on their current course would mean losing access to the American market and defense commitments? In all of those areas where they have used policy to boost their own manufacturing sectors, currency valuation, industrial subsidies, government procurement, regulatory barriers, wage suppression, and so on, they could instead use their policy to boost ours. Is it so outlandish that Japan would cap its export of vehicles to the U.S. market and tell Honda and Toyota to go make it in America instead? Trick question. That's exactly what Japan did when threatened with tariffs in the early 1980s. And we have the booming auto sector in the American South as a result. The notion of a Mar-a-Lago Accord based on the 1980s Plaza Accord fits squarely within this framework. Bring U.S. allies to the table to agree upon a reevaluation of currencies that would help to rebalance trade, backed by the threat of tariffs or other trade actions against countries that fail to participate. Even absent a gathering at one of the many fine Palm Beach resorts, a U.S. shift from a market open by default to one protected by default puts the ball in our allies' court to adopt policies that solve the problem if they want to come back inside our free market zone. Number 2, burden owning. The extent to which the U.S. allies have underinvested in their own defense capabilities and relied instead upon the United States to lead and underwrite all military actions and deterrence around the world should be deeply humiliating to them, writes Orrin Cass. But mostly it is deeply humiliating to us. We accuse those nations of being naive in their failure to maintain adequate defense, but they have been laughing all the way to the bank, or at least all the way to the more generous social welfare spending they can afford as a result. The United States has been the naive one, having compliantly footed the bill year after year, its exhortations for greater burden sharing having elicited only smirks. Lectures, unsurprisingly, have not worked. What may finally be starting to work is the United States is in fact refusing to go along with the charade any longer, like America's changing the deal. In the UK, Germany, and Japan, a reorientation may finally be underway. But the United States must emphasize that there is no magic number for countries to spend that proves they are quote-unquote doing enough. The goal should not be burden sharing, but burden owning. Japan's goal should not be to spend 2% of GDP on defense, at which point the U.S. promises to defend it from China. Germany will not have it done its part by bringing the size of its armed forces up from 180,000 to 200,000, a goal it has already pushed back from 2025 to 2031, and which moved further away as enlistment managed to shrink in Germany last year. No, Japan's defense spending will be sufficient when it feels secure from China. Germany's spending on defense will be sufficient when it can successfully deter Russia. The model here should be Israel, the American ally that generally asks us to stay home. It can handle its own business. Thank you very much. Israel allocates an enormous share of GDP to its defense, more than 5% annually, even absent ongoing conflicts, and has universal conscription, not because that's what's necessary to pass some political test, but because that's what's necessary to defend Israel. Of course, the U.S. also provides Israel with military aid, mostly in the form of weapon systems, but that represents a small fraction of Israel's total spending, less than $4 billion versus more than $20 billion. And basically nothing compared to what the U.S. spends on its own military commitments on behalf of its allies in Europe and the Pacific. Israel is also an invaluable intelligence and technology partner. Could Japan and Taiwan face off against China in the same way Israel holds its own in the Middle East, with the United States playing a comparable complementary role? The only reason they cannot is that they have never had to and never tried. And the third demand, China out. China out. The third requirement of participation in the U.S.-led economic and security alliance should be the maintenance of a collective perimeter that excludes China. Again, I'm reading Orrin Cass's thoughts on this.
Partners should agree on common tariff barriers, investment restrictions, export controls, and immigration policies. As AI-dominated information networks continue to develop, the technology ecosystem of the free world may also need to be kept apart from the Chinese-dominated one. In some respects, a requirement of balanced trade would already push countries in this direction. If Mexico is committed to balanced trade with the United States, Mexico-based BYD factories could not flood the American market with subsidized EVs. But the United States has, and its allies should have, concerns about China that go far beyond trade deficits. The Chinese Communist Party has an explicit strategy of dominating critical links in supply chains and absorbing key technologies vital to military progress. It also uses foreign investment into China to gain leverage over the companies seeking profit there, and investment out of China to gain leverage over governments hungry for capital and infrastructure. While each individual country and each of its corporations will find endless situations where working with China seems attractive, an alliance will only be secure and its markets free if all have disavowed that course. As Nicholas Phillips observed in an excellent essay for Commonplace last week, Canada and Mexico may be coming under so much early fire because they have traditionally had such close trading relationships with the United States, not despite those relationships. As written, USMCA does little to exclude China from North American supply chains. And as recently as December, the Financial Times was reporting on how China is setting up shop in Mexico. Just a few months later, after Trump's initial actions, Reuters was reporting that U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Mexico had proposed matching U.S. tariffs on China in a move that he describes as very interesting, and one that Canada should match. Bloomberg said Trump tariff threats freeze out BYD and other Chinese firms. North America is the obvious core of a U.S.-led bloc, and USMCA provides the basic framework for trading relationships therein. The renegotiation of USMCA, initially scheduled for next year and already moved up in response to the Trump administration's actions, provides an obvious inflection point for the American approach to economic alliances, clearly conveying the unattractive alternative to accepting American terms will be an important step in that process. All three of these demands are dramatic departures from the status quo. Fair trade, defense, say burden owning, and of course, keeping China out. And of course, because the status quo is threatened, they engender yelps, screams, wailing and gnashing of teeth of outrage from allies abroad and liberal world order defenders at home. And yet, one cannot help notice, writes Warrencast, they're all eminently reasonable elements of a fair and well-functioning alliance. Indeed, they're mostly expectations to which the United States has already been held, and certainly all ones to which the United States would hold itself going forward. We do not try to run trade surpluses at the expense of other countries, and if we did, they would scream bloody murder. We do not underspend on defense and then try to shame other countries for not fighting our wars for us. Indeed, it's hard to envision how that would even look. We have already begun efforts to decouple from China and certainly would not ask other countries to go any faster than we go. And while this may sound condescending, I would even suggest that these policy changes would be good for our allies too. Both Germany and Japan are facing significant economic struggles of their own, caused in part by their over-reliance on exports and a lack of domestic demand. Reducing their savings rates and trade surpluses could help stimulate much-needed growth. There's nothing contradictory in observing that persistent imbalances can be unhealthy on both sides of the ledger. Countries that have abdicated responsibility for their own defense might find themselves much happier, if slightly poorer, if they reclaim their own agency. As for China, the United States will do our allies a great favor if we leave them no choice but to abandon the temptations of the CCP. An alliance built around balanced trade, burden owning, and China out would also afford all its members better opportunities to reindustrialize their own economies and counter China's scale, but only if all three commitments are present. Again, that is Orrin Cass. He's the chief economist at American Compass. Slightly foreign thinking to me. I am still in that world. If you had to ask me straight up, the ideal is no tariffs. Like true freedom. But if what we're doing is correcting a system that had plenty of tariffs and non-tariff barriers and all sorts of
let's say, the United States footing the bill for everything, and we're instead not going complete freedom, but we're going to just on the margins, a better situation that will strengthen us. Yeah, I think that might work. In particular, with this move with AI, it's fascinating to think about how are the Chinese training their artificial intelligence? What is the North Star, the guiding principle of these Chinese artificial intelligence neural networks? It's not the same as the ones being developed here in the United States or anywhere else. Often when you look under the hood, the main goal of Chinese artificial intelligence, but as well as most of China's mercantilist policies that we've been ignoring, China has been playing hardball, treating their entire nation like a firm, and the guiding principle is to protect the party. As much as they opened up their economy, as much as they, well, put out a friendly hand that is going to grip you perpetually, they're still communist at the end of the day. And if you're building AI neural networks, or if your entire policy, your entire approach to government and how it faces the rest of the world is to protect the Communist Party, how much do Americans really want to cooperate with that? You've already seen small things like, the vetoes China's had on Hollywood. I remember how certain NBA players and owners were chastened by the Chinese. There are real concerns because of, say, Elon Musk or anybody else's business interests in China. How much does the CCP have on these folks? Well, if you offer a better deal to everybody else, that you don't even have to worry about the tentacles of the CCP, instead join this new alliance and rebalance things, and yes, a new multipolar world could be worth it. But changing the status quo in a big way like this, well, it's always going to create headaches. Heck, changing an individual person's life like this always creates a little bit of pain. Sometimes you need the pain if you want the game. This part of the program brought to you by Bo Goodson and the Goodson Group. And they're at the Goodson Group. Bo and his team are ready to help you with buying or selling here in the River Region real estate market. And Bo's been helping buyers and sellers here in the Montgomery and surrounding areas for 50 years almost, if not over 50 years. At the Goodson Group, they not only can help you with buying and selling property, they have management services available should you want to rent out your home. And the Goodson Group is also the home of the Bo Goodson Real Estate School, one of the most highly acclaimed and accredited real estate programs here in the great state of Alabama. So if you're interested, buying, selling, having that rental investment managed, or you want to sign up for the Bo Goodson Real Estate School, you can always go online to thegoodsongroup.com or give them a call at 551-0225. That's 551-0225. Bo Goodson and the Goodson Group. Great sponsor here of the program.
Want to carry News Talk in your pocket? Download the News Talk 93.1 app from the App Store. Available on iPhone and Android. Never miss a moment. Download now.
We all want access to care and coverage we need to stay healthy, but Farm Bureau health plans aren't the answer. They are unregulated and unreliable when it comes to covering you and your family. If you have cancer or another pre-existing condition, well, you'd be out of luck. Alabama deserves better than empty promises. Call your state legislator now and tell them to vote no on Farm Bureau health plans. Visit fightcancer.org/Alabama. It's time for real health insurance.
Paid for by the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network.
Are you tired of the mainstream media's biased reporting? Do you want to stay informed on the news that really matters to you? Look no further than 1819 News. At 1819 News, we bring you the latest in Alabama news, politics, sports, culture, and more. We've assembled a team of journalists with Alabama values dedicated to the truth and the truth alone. Visit us at 1819news.com today. That's 1819news.com. Subscribe to our newsletter. Honest News, Alabama Values.
For over 40 years, Headley Plumbing has been fixing the River Region's plumbing problems with fast, affordable service. The pros at Headley are ready to respond anytime you need help, and they charge fair rates for their expert service. They help River Region homes and businesses every day, from repairing leaky faucets, septic tank service, replacing damaged sewer lines, or just unstopping a blocked drain. Trust the experts at Headley Plumbing. Call 285-3667. Headley Plumbing, 285-3667. Remember Headley's motto, in our business, a flush beats a full house.
Headley Metal Buildings has been your source for quality metal buildings in the River region since 2007. Carports up to 24 feet wide, RV covers, storage buildings, even a sturdy metal barn up to 54 feet wide. Your structure can be customized, installed on level ground, and comes with a 20-year warranty. Let Headley Metal Buildings help you find the perfect solution. Financing available. Call 285-3667 for details or find Headley Metal Buildings on Facebook.
This hour of news and views is brought to you by our good friends at Alabama Home Mortgage. Alabama Home Mortgage, 567-4223. Visit them on the web at myalabamahomemortgage.com. NMLS number 1586368. An equal housing lender.
Live, local talk. The River Region's most trusted voice for news and opinion. News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Again, coming up, we have the former chief of staff for Ron Paul when he was in Congress, Jeff Deist. Jeff was also president of the Mises Institute there in Auburn, Alabama for about a decade, and I think keen thinker and great insights. I like Jeff very much and look forward to having him join the program here soon, a little bit after 2 o'clock at Central Time. And then Brylan Hollyhand joining us, young activist in the GOP, very much on the Trump train. We're going to be talking, well, some of the highlights of the last few months of the Trump presidency, the 47th president. He'll be joining us at about 2:30 Central Time. Look forward to both conversations. Again, as you just heard this entire hour brought to you by Alabama Home Mortgage. And they're at Alabama Home Mortgage. They're ready to help you if you're looking to purchase a home or refinance a home. Could be it's your first time buying a home, or it could be you've done it before, but you didn't like that experience with the big bank. You want to go with local folks who are independent or to get you the best possible deal. Or if it is your first time, you want to go with folks that can actually walk you through the process, whether it's pre-approval or all the steps in between, all the way to closing day. And if you're looking to refinance, it could be for credit card debt reasons or debt reasons in general. It could be you're hitting retirement age. You just want to, say, lower that monthly overhead. Recently, a listener of ours saved $400 a month by working with Alabama Home Mortgage. So y'all check them out today. You can always go to myalabamahomemortgage.com and apply there, or just call them direct at 567-4223. That's 567-4223. Or just say, hey, Joey sent you. NMLS number 1586368. An equal housing lender. Like I said, Jeff Deist should be joining us on the other side here.
Broadcasting from the Riverside Chevrolet Master Control Center, this is WACV Cusana, News Talk 93.1 FM. When it's Chevy, it's Riverside.
With SRN News, I'm John Scott. Severe storms will continue to fire through the day and may sneak south of the front. Should this happen, a notable increase in the risk of tornadoes will become apparent from northeastern Texas into Mississippi. Some of these storms could be strong EF2 to EF3 tornadoes. The number of Americans seeking unemployment benefits fell modestly last week. Jobless claim filings fell by 6,000 to 219,000 for the week ending March 29th, according to the Labor Department. New York City Mayor Eric Adams says he will pull out of the city's Democratic primary and will instead run for re-election as an independent. Financial markets around the world reeling following President Trump's latest and most severe volley of tariffs. This is SRN News.
Financing a home, especially in today's market, is one of the biggest decisions you'll make for your family. Work with a mortgage company that puts you first. I do. Work with a lender founded on biblical principles like do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. I do. It's Mike Gallagher for the only mortgage company I've used for almost a decade now when financing or refinancing Fellowship Home Loans. I'm friends with the owners, Mike and Brian. I even have them on my show occasionally. I know the care their team puts into every single customer. I can personally tell you that it's a smooth, stress-free process. And that's due to Fellowship's level of service and expertise that puts you in the right loan for your family and your goals. There's a reason Fellowship Home Loans is flooded with 5-star reviews. Whether purchasing a home or a cash-out refi to consolidate some higher interest debt, you can trust Fellowship Home Loans. Start the process. Make the call. 800-510-MIKE, 800-510 Fellowship Home Loans Mortgage Lending by The Book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 819382.
Rich Thomas Weather, a service of Riverside Chevrolet Wetumpka. If it's Chevy, it's Riverside. Best price, best selection. Check them out on the web at riversideusa.net.
Rich Thomas Weather.
Well, hi, everybody. We've been in record high temperature territory, and we're not done with that pattern yet. Even the nights are mild, with the overnight low temperature tonight down to about 68, partly cloudy. Still storm-free and dry tomorrow with a sun and cloud mix and a high temperature in the upper 80s to near 90. The record is 89, and I think we tie it or break it. Still warm on Saturday with widely scattered showers, but it's late Saturday night and even more likely on Sunday when we could see yet another dose of severe weather, including the threat of tornadoes. It is possible, and we'll watch it. From the National Tropical Weather Conference, South Padre Island, Texas, Rich Thomas for Blue Water Broadcasting.
You can make your ASC loan payments from your phone anytime, anywhere. It's quick and easy. www.yourasccu.com. Federally insured by NCUA.
ASD Credit Union. Your life, your cause, your ASD.
1819 News.
Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall has filed a brief within the U.S. Supreme Court that is in support of the Trump administration and its deportation of illegal aliens under the Alien Enemies Act. Marshall is one of 3 attorneys general who wrote the brief, with 27 other attorneys general signing on to it. Marshall wrote in the brief that if the judiciary can strip the executive branch of its power to control immigration, it won't stop there. Marshall maintains in that brief that our constitutional system is at risk if the courts are allowed to continue this overstepping of their authority. Marshall also mentioned the Venezuelan gang known as Tren de Aragua and how it's been designated as a foreign terrorist organization based on the number of Americans that have been murdered and police officers attacked by those gang members. Marshall says that President Trump was well-founded in making that designation, as well as taking action to capture and deport those gang members. I'll be back with more Alabama stories after this.
I'm Amy Beth Shaper with Alabama Unfiltered Radio, and when I need the news and I need it fast, I turn to Andrea Tice and the Daily Detail. On my way in, it is the most convenient, best way for me to digest what's going on so that I can use it for our show. She tells you what's going on in Alabama that day first and fast. So listen to the Daily Detail with Andrea Tice. Don't miss out.
The Daily Detail is available wherever podcasts are found.
The post-election audit bill has been passed out of the Senate General Fund Budget Committee and heads to the full Senate. This bill has already passed the Alabama House. The bill is sponsored by State Representative Debbie Wood and requires every county probate judge to conduct a post-election audit of a certain number of races within a randomly selected precinct. The audit will involve a hand count of the ballots to ensure that the ballots match up with the vote tabulators that were used on Election Day. I'm Andrea Tice.
For more news affecting Alabamians, go to 1819news.com. And while you're there, subscribe to the daily newsletter.
This hour of news and views is brought to you by our good friends at Cole Plumbing, 279-8919. Cole Plumbing is number 1 in the number 2 business. You don't have to dig a hole. They have proprietary pipelining technology. Ask them about their tankless water heaters. Remember, when you have trouble with your bowl, call on Cole.
Looking for a fresh, satisfying lunch? Look no further than Epicure and Jack's Tavern. Dive into their special lunch menu featuring 3 dishes for only $9.99 for seniors and $13.99 for others, complete with a drink and bread. At Epicure and Jack's, they pride themselves on creating every meal from scratch daily. No fast food, just real food that warms the soul. Stop by Epicure and Jack's Tavern today and savor the difference.
The views and opinions of the following program are solely those of the host and other contributors. These do not necessarily represent those of Liberty Acquisitions 825, Blue Water Broadcasting, its management, staff, or any advertisers. It's time for Montgomery's conversational radio show. It's news and views on News Talk 93.1 FM. To join the conversation, call 272-9228.
What the hell are we doing here?
We are behaving the way a superpower ought to behave.
Well, our behavior has produced some crappy results.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back to the program, folks. And now, as promised, we have the one, the only Jeff Dice joining us by phone. Jeff, how you doing this afternoon?
Hey, Joey. Happy summer. It's 85 in Auburn today.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, and it's a little overcast here in Montgomery, but it still feels just fine by me. Now, the entire show, with the exception of giving a hat tip to Val Kilmer, we've been covering this global trade reset, what Trump called Liberation Day yesterday from the Rose Garden. I just want to keep this simple. What do you make of this?
Well, first, people seem to forget that Trump ran 3 times for president, starting back in 2015. And all 3 times he talked about trade protectionism and tariffs as the cornerstone of his economic plan. I mean, the idea that everyone is in an uproar now as though this was somehow not anticipated, so it's really the political class. That includes economists, all the talking head shows, most of the, radio hosts, et cetera. They're all bemoaning these tariffs. And now, oddly enough, Democrats on the left are joining this chorus. When I was a kid, Democrats loved tariffs. They loved unions. They loved trade protectionism. And it was all designed to help the American worker compete with these cheap imports, And so there's a lot of politics here. And Trump has been consistent. I mean, look, I don't think tariffs work how he thinks they work. But he's been consistent, and he really does, I believe, think that this helps the little guy. That this helps American manufacturing, and this helps American jobs. Where I think he has some blinders on is that because it's such a global economy now, all the inputs that American businesses need, all the stuff that goes into the goods and services they produce, it's not just goods, it's services too. All those inputs are now going to cost more because a lot of those inputs come from abroad. So, I mean, it's obviously very, very complex. But I will say this in his defense, and I'm a non-tariff guy, but in his defense, these tariffs are still quite a bit lower than we imagined the rest of the world's tariffs to be on our goods and other imports. So, Trump, just the way he is wired, he sees everything as this sort of, if you're not taking advantage of me, I'm taking advantage of you. Everything's zero sum. And I'm just a little mystified by the punditry acting so shocked when he's been openly running on this for 10 years.
Yeah, and especially this last campaign, I mean, he was saying it to all what was it, the Economic Forum or Economic Club in New York or Chicago or something like that, just saying it to their faces. Y'all are wrong about this. This is what I'm running on. I love President McKinley. This was as you said, a cornerstone of this last campaign. And it also, what I was just going over last hour, it makes more sense to me in a larger reset of the deal as we enter a multipolar world. It makes more sense as, okay, Europe, you need to take the burden of your own defense spending. We want to decouple from China. When you put the resetting trade and tariff schedules in that context, this makes a little more sense to me.
Yeah, it's tougher. Even 10 years ago, I would say the rest of the world was more reliant on U.S. markets to buy their exports. China, I've learned, is down. We're down to about 14%. In other words, Americans only consume about 14% of China's exports. I think most of us would have thought it was higher than that, right? Or half or something. So it's going to be more difficult. But the rest of the world does not have clean hands here. And he's not a doctrinaire libertarian free trader, and he's never pretended to be. Now let's remember, when it comes to actual wars, we could say tariffs are kind of a proxy, trade wars, right?
Sure.
We could say tariffs are sort of a form of friction between countries when they're unhappy with one another. So it's not a war, but it's a step in that direction. Well, when we had actual wars like Iraq and Afghanistan, remember those, Joey? I remember a bunch of doctrinaire libertarians saying, well, I'm anti-war, but, pregnant pause, we have to get Saddam because, this is about democracy and liberating the Iraqi people, yada, 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 right? So, but that same argument doesn't seem to apply to these Cato types now where you say, well, I'm against tariffs, but, pregnant pause, China imposes all this and Europe doesn't pay for its defense and all these other things. So, I think there's a lot of hypocrisy to go around. And I do think that if these tariffs had been enacted by or issued by a Joe Biden or a President Hillary Clinton or a President Barack Obama, the media's reception would be markedly different. I think a lot of this is just Trump's crazy. We hate his guts. And so both the Republican GOP establishment opposes him root and branch on this. And it's, I mean, look, there are winners and losers in trade wars. If you slap tariffs on, imported steel from Japan, yeah, that does help U.S. Steel a little bit, and it does make Pittsburgh a little more prosperous, and it does create some more secure jobs in Pittsburgh, and then that means the local churches and ball fields and IHOPs have a more an employed customer base, and that filters down through Pittsburgh. I mean, Pittsburgh benefits, but the rest of us Americans pay more if we go buy, let's say, a Honda with some Japanese steel in it. Right. So the idea that there's no winners and losers, I mean, all economic policies have trade-offs. Exactly, and so right. Trump is viewing the trade-offs very differently than what we'll call the laptop class, Joey.
Well, and you're pointing at the hypocrisy of, say, the corporate media and the ruling elite. So I think they think hypocrisy deep down is a virtue. It's almost like it's not just the realignment of, say, America's place in the world and how we're going to treat allies and, say, enemies. It's a realignment almost completely of American politics. This, to your point earlier, used to be the Union Democrat point of view. And maybe to credit whether Jeff Sessions or Stephen Miller or Steve Bannon, these folks who saw this early in 2015 and 2014 when they're meeting with Trump, it seems they've completely taken away that from the Democratic Party.
Yes, there's no question that the any anti-war fervor or any what you could call isolationist or non-interventionist fervor is clearly with the Trump camp today in terms of get out of Ukraine. Let's not get too deep in with China and Taiwan. Let's not get too deep in with Ukraine and Russia. Let's not get too deep in with Gaza. All that sentiment now is on the right, and all of the populist economic sentiment is clearly on the right. So that's been a shift. I mean, the Democrats have become the party not of the union hall or the of labor, but of academia, right? I mean, right. The Democratic Party finds its voice in the sociology department at Harvard or something. So that's a big shift, and you got to hand it to Trump. I'm not sure any other modern figure could have pulled that off. I mean, this is kind of a Teddy Roosevelt, William McKinley type thing.
It really is. And what's also crazy about it is not only did he steal a lot of the working class vote and support this last cycle, at least, he stole away a lot of the Silicon Valley talent. And I'm now shifting, I guess, to the Doge conversation. I just finished Walter Isaacson's biography on Musk. Really good read. He had a lot of inside access. And you start seeing now at Doge characters throughout Elon's, say, business career showing up in prominent positions, like Antonio Gracias, who helped him really fix Tesla, sleeping on the factory floor together. That's the guy who's been overseeing the overhaul of Social Security and getting rid of a lot of these clearly fraudulent numbers of dead folks and how these numbers are being abused. At this point, where do you see the Doge saga going? In particular, what I have in mind is the latest cuts by RFK Jr. at HHS. I think it's glorious. They're really breaking into these public health authorities that screwed us, during the COVID era. But I guess big question there. What do you make of this at this point in time of what Doge is up to?
Well, you notice, though, that when RFK announced that was in part announced as getting rid of some of the dead weight and what I would call the politicization of science within NIH, within HHS, within CDC, FDA, all the various alphabet soup departments and agencies which are tasked with anything related to health, have become so politicized and so captured, by big food, big pharma, whatever it might be, that I think that, you don't have to look at that in terms of shrinking the workforce of those organizations, the capacity of them, but more getting rid of some of the ideological entrenchment. These are not neutral agencies. These agencies are bought and paid for. So whatever has to happen at HHS, and especially at NIH, where I see Dr. Jay Bhattacharya has been, in fact, confirmed by the Senate, this is a long time coming. And in the scheme of things, 10,000 jobs, look, welcome to what the rest of us have lived with our whole lives, which is the possibility of being laid off or losing one's job. 10,000 employees out of over 3 million federal workers experienced a little tremor. Okay, well, I'm sorry about that, and I don't care for anyone to lose their job, but this has to be done, and it has to be done quickly, because I think when you talk about the future fortunes of Doge, I think you're going to find a lot of resistance from the Republicans as well when it comes to any cuts that actually affect their districts. And I think you're going to find that the media and the powers that be are going to try to, cause a falling out between Elon Musk and Trump that could be over Doge. It could be that they tank the Tesla stock down to the point where his debt commitments, when he borrowed money in part to buy Twitter, if you recall,
right?
He might be in breach of his debt commitments because his collateral, which is his personal Tesla stock, could drop below a certain amount, and so he's vulnerable in a lot of ways. And I wish he were more of a behind-the-scenes guy. That's not who he is, obviously, because sometimes a behind-the-scenes guy can get more done than a guy who's really out there blunt in everyone's face. But look, this had to happen. It had to at least be attempted. If it's not successful, we've raised the issue, we've raised the possibility, and so I have to support it. I don't know what else to say. And the people who immediately fall in line and defend federal bureaucrats and say they're not lazy and that they all work, well, that just isn't true. I mean, they all went home during COVID. Many of them never came back. And there's just a shocking amount of fat in that federal bureaucratic budget. And what's the worst part of it, though, Joey, is not that people are sitting around barely working, playing solitaire on their computers or something, getting paid. That's not the problem. The problem is that they are actively partisan and working against the interests, not only the American people, but the actual executive who the American people elected to be their boss. And that's we can't have.
Yeah, when I think of the average bureaucrat who it's unfortunate they're losing their gig, how much you want to bet the media who's covering breathlessly, even with tears, all these people getting fired, they're going to do a story when those folks get rehired, say in the fourth quarter of this year? Where are going to be those stories as they enter the private sector again? And then the part about this that I think even progressives should be cheering on, and you're seeing some, even Jon Stewart, kind of astounded by the amount of bureaucracy, is the category I would call legal graft. Treasury Secretary Bessent laid out that it was Booz Allen, something like 93% of all their revenues was coming from the federal government. So you start looking into all the consulting contracts, you start looking within HHS, all these sub-agencies buying and selling depersonalized health data to one another. Then you get into the whole clearly money laundering that does play into ideology and the NGO networks in this country and around the world. It's astounding that we're putting up with this. Yesterday, I played a clip from Milton Friedman where he said, you need to begin with the principle of wanting liberty, not equality, because if you end up going for equality first, you're going to empower certain folks to tell other people what to do and take from others. And what you end up with is A and B tell C how they need to treat D, and A and B take their, say, toll or their cut along the way. And I think that describes this sort of bureaucratic, top-heavy legal scam that's been going on for so long. And if you're a progressive, believes in universal health care, why would you even defend this? You can have universal health care necessarily without any of this.
Oh, you're right. I mean, there are whole industries. Let's think about the aerospace and defense contracting industries, where the federal government is basically the sole contract. And so all of that adds to GDP. It comes out of our hide. But, there is a blurring of the line between government work and so-called private sector, right? Is Lockheed Martin a private sector company? Well, there's a stock market. It's publicly traded. You can go buy and own it. You can sell those shares. And, gee whiz, seems like a capitalist company. But if the majority of its revenue is from federal taxpayers, then, that creates a cronyist system where the government, in effect, is larger than we think. It's larger than just the federal workforce itself and the federal, the military. It's actually quite a bit larger than that when you start to look at all of the people whose livelihoods are directly tied to a federal contract.
Now, to do a little bit of, if I could, what should I call it? Libertarian inside baseball. I've just noticed something. There are all these little moments, whether it's, say, immigration and the border, certain things where you see splits within the libertarian movement, people I've met personally in Auburn who have gone to different parts of the country. And one interesting, say, litmus test is, man, I'll ask you just straight up, what do you think of Bukele in El Salvador at this point?
Well, I love the idea of outsourcing our worst prisoners.
Yep.
Because I saw a statistic the other day. You guys are gonna fall over. The state of California, in its state prison system, spends $101,000 per year per inmate.
Ooh.
$101,000. I don't know what the average cost is for federal inmates. Probably depends on the facility. But I mean, this is just a staggering amount of money, and I know people, think that sounds Orwellian. But look, I mean, there's a segment of the population that's irredeemably violent or fraudulent or criminal in some serious manner, and I think Americans are tired of being at the mercy of the worst in society all the time, and the transaction cost that imposes everything from insurance to taxes to locking our doors at night and all kinds of things. So it doesn't it's very Trump.
Yeah,
it's very Trump to say we're going to take these people and we're going to make them somebody else's problem. I mean, and Bukele appears willing to take it now. I'm not up on all the particulars of the due process or lack thereof with respect to each suspect,
right,
and this and that, and the whole question of whether someone who is here legally but yet has some sort of permit to be here, whether that's temporary resident, whatever it might be, student, and whether whether they can be thrown out of the country on any slight violation that would not apply to a citizen. I mean, that's I think a pretty big constitutional type debate. But again, why the people who are up in arms about this seem to forget that Trump just won big.
Right.
and part of that, and part of the reason he won is because people are tired of immigration. They're certainly tired of criminal immigration. So this sort of, tender-hearted chest beating. Oh my goodness, what are we doing? Well, we're doing what Trump said he was going to do.
Right. And I think and I've been this way for most of my life, in wanting to respect human rights and basic liberties and the dignity of every person. I think we in this country, it depends on where you are exactly in the country, have been willing to put up with sort of heinous, unlawful activities. Like, oh, that's part of freedom that you're going to have. That's the fleas that come with the dogs. But I look at something like El Salvador. There's an amazing, CNN actually did a great job. They went down and toured that max security prison. It is harsh, very harsh indeed, but brand new, and how everybody's running it. Then after they toured that prison, though, they interviewed one guy who was wrongfully detained as a gang member for 7 months, gets an infection in his leg. So his left leg is fully atrophied. You can see it as he's sitting there with his kids. He's free now, how much his leg is just shot. And after going through all that, the CNN reporter, well, what do you think of the leadership in this country? He goes, oh, I love them. You don't understand what it was like before. And it's almost like sometimes I think we in the very developed parts of the West don't understand when you don't have the rule of law in the first place, you have to have somebody impose it. If it's just, say, literally a country run by gangs, you need to be the biggest, baddest gang. And my hope is that Bukele and that regime will continue to liberalize the more they have peace and order.
Well, look, I mean, you can't have liberty without order. It's just the way it is. And people will always prefer order to liberty if they have that stark choice. It's just the way it is. So in a sense, Bukele is giving people what they want. But look, on the U.S. question, I would have to defer to our friend, Judge Andrew Napolitano. There are parts of the Constitution that say persons, any person, and there are parts of the Constitution that say any citizen. So he can speak eloquently at length on how due process works with respect to both citizens and non-citizens. But, I think we should at least consider and not be so quick to forget that a lot of more people probably silently support this than let on, given the results of the last presidential election.
Well, and I asked Judge Knapp about that earlier in the week. He hates all of this. He thinks it's a flaunting of the Eighth Amendment and all sorts of things. And, well, we'll continue to see as things play out here in this country and all over the world. It is interesting times, revolutionary times, it feels like, for better or for worse. I always appreciate your time, Jeff. If folks want to check out what you're writing about, thinking about, what you're up to, how can they do so?
Sure. Just come to that TwitterX.com thing that they used to have a little bird. And I'm at Jeff Deist, all one word. Love to have you follow me.
Well, I appreciate it. We'll do it again soon. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, gentlemen. Bye now.
Again, that's Jeff Deist. Always appreciate his time here on the program. This part of the program brought to you again by Josh and Leslie Ryder there at Dillon Rings. And at Dillon Rings, well, they're ready to help you with any and all of your jewelry needs. Could be like a spa treatment. So you got a favorite piece of jewelry you wear all the live long day. You wear it every day. And though you love it, it's starting to look like you wear it every day. What if that favorite piece of jewelry that you always wear could shine and shimmer like it's brand new again? They can do that at Dillon Rings. Or maybe it breaks. They can repair it. They're at Dillon Rings. Maybe you want something new. You're tired of this old thing. It's a new year, new me, or whatever. You're turning over a leaf, whatever reason you're turning over a new leaf. Go and see this amazing inventory Leslie's put together, from high-end pieces to everyday jewelry and everything in between. A beautiful, incredible selection there at Dillon Rings. And of course, if you look through the inventory, you're like, I want something like truly unique. Well, they have custom design work. Go check out the custom design work. This ring, an engagement ring that Josh Ryder made. It is absolutely beautiful. So if you're looking for something truly unique, Josh Ryder can make it. The guy is a true artist. Y'all check him out today. You can always stop by 119 Brown Springs Road here in Montgomery. That's just off of Atlanta Highway, sort of the back end entrance to the AUM complex, nestled up to where the old fun zone used to be there on Brown Springs Road. And be sure to tell Josh and Leslie that Joey, that fella on the radio, sent you. We'll be right back.
He may not know whether he's coming or going, but whether you're going to work or coming home, Greg Budell is there. Mornings 6 till 9 and afternoons 3 till 6. Only on News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Since 1966, Alabama Sheriff's Youth Ranches has been more than just a place to stay. It's been a place to belong. For children facing hardships through no fault of their own, our ranches provide more than shelter. We offer a warm home, a loving family, and a future filled with hope. With open arms, we welcome these young hearts, giving them the love, structure, and guidance they need to heal, grow, and thrive in a warm Christian environment. Together, we can give Alabama's children the chance they deserve, a chance to dream, to succeed, and to feel truly cherished. Every donation stays within Alabama, directly impacting the lives of the children who need it most. Join us in making a difference. Visit AlabamaSheriffsYouthRanches.org. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and download our app from your app store. We'd be honored to have you as a part of our mission to lift up Alabama's youth. And remember this, it's easier to build boys and girls than to repair men and women.
What's your biggest investment? More than likely, it's your home. So treat it that way when you hire a painting contractor. With PBS Painting, there are no gimmicks, no $99 specials. Just quality painting and someone who treats your home with the same respect that you do. At PBS Painting, we have been painting for years and look forward to many more years to come. With PBS Painting, the job gets prepped properly, whether it's cleaning, scraping, or priming. We always use quality products, which is a must for a quality paint job. So if you're looking for a painter that doesn't need upfront money and is on the job at all times, then please give me a call. Scott Bowers and PBS Painting, 294-5122. That's PBS Painting, 294-5122. Look at some of our work on Facebook at PBS Painting Montgomery.
For too long, Alabama's statewide news companies have shamed us for our conservative Christian values. Alabama deserves a news company that cherishes our culture, a company that isn't bought and paid for by the powers that be. 1819 News is that company. Run by Alabamians for Alabamians, 1819 News celebrates what is good and beautiful about our state, while exposing those who work against our values in secret. Just go to 1819news.com to learn more. Subscribe to our newsletter. That's 1819news.com.
The 21st Annual Autism Crawfish Boil, benefiting Easter Seals of Central Alabama, is April 5th at Riverwalk Stadium. Proceeds from this fun family event benefit autism programs at Easter Seals of Central Alabama. Enjoy all-you-can-eat crawfish, live music, and even a baseball game. The Autism Crawfish Boil, April 5th at Riverwalk Stadium. Stay and eat or grab them and go. Scan or visit mudbugball.com to purchase tickets and get info on curbside pickup.
Weather, a service of H&H Carpets, where right now, get a load of this, listen close, you got a house full of carpet for $19.95 installed. Unbelievable. They're located at 6450 Atlanta Highway, just across from Walmart.
Rich Thomas weather.
Well, hi, everybody. We've been in record high temperature territory, and we're not done with that pattern yet. Even the nights are mild, with the overnight low temperature tonight down to about 68, partly cloudy. Still storm-free and dry tomorrow with a sun and cloud mix and a high temperature in the upper 80s to near 90. The record is 89, and I think we tie it or break it. Still warm on Saturday with widely scattered showers, but it's late Saturday night and even more likely on Sunday when we could see yet another dose of severe weather, including the threat of tornadoes. It is possible, and we'll watch it. From the National Tropical Weather Conference, South Padre Island, Texas, Rich Thomas for Blue Water Broadcasting.
This hour of News and Views is brought to you by our good friends at Cole Plumbing, 279-8919. Cole Plumbing is number one in the number two business. You don't have to dig a hole. They have proprietary pipelining technology. Ask them about their tankless water heaters. Remember, when you have trouble with your bowl, call on Cole.
The River Region's News Talk Station. News Talk 93.1, WACV. News Talk 93.1.
The Southeast, we drink sweet tea. We don't drink socialist Kool-Aid.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back, folks. Final hour here of the program. You can always subscribe to Joey Clark Live on YouTube, or just follow me on the X platform at the Joey Clark. Great talking to Jeff Dice, but our next guest is now live on the stream with us, Brylan Hollyhan. Brylan, how you doing today, sir?
Joey, I'm amazing. Happy Thursday to you and your awesome audience. And I hope you're doing well as well.
Well, and I'm impressed. You got classes earlier in the day, and now you're ready to do media hits.
Correct. Yeah, I normally do school for 6 or 7 hours a day. We come home and we've got a full slate of about 5 interviews this afternoon. So we're back to back. But I'm happy to start the day with this one. This is going to be fun.
So let's just think of it's been 2-3 months now of actual Trump being in office, being in power here. Let's just go through the highlights. If I had to. What are the Brylan highlights?
So the biggest thing to me during the course of the campaign, I did, I think, 27 campus speeches during the course of the campaign. Lots of fun. But the point of that is we got to talk directly with young people. And the biggest thing I kept talking about was the debt, of how people don't really focus on the debt, but Gen Z needs to wake up to the fact that we're the generation that's going to be saddled with it. Right now, the congressmen that really are, acting like they should be in a senior living facility up in D.C. are actually the ones that are saddling our generation with debt that's going to affect us to make it harder not only to grow up in America, but to raise a family in America one day. So Trump's tackled that in 2 ways, and that's what I'm most excited about. The first one's the big talker. It's obviously Doge, and what Elon has done with the president to be able to cut wasteful spending, to cut theft, to cut what we've seen and have been rumored for decades in the government, specifically with USAID, and actually see that be taken care of so early on in the administration is huge. The second thing that I'm excited about, like so stoked, is what we saw yesterday with Liberation Day. The president actually putting those reciprocal tariffs that all these presidents say they're going to do, and they talk tough, but they don't actually do it. As we know with President Trump, he walks the walk, and he actually did put those reciprocal tariffs on. And again, a huge step in the right direction of tackling that debt that is, on the shoulders of my generation. It's major, Joey.
Yeah, and in terms of speaking to a next generation, because well, maybe Trump will have the third term. Who knows? That'll take a lot of legal changes. But when I look at J.D. Vance, what a messenger for continuing this party beyond 4 years.
Yes, huge fan of J.D. Vance. Him and I actually met the day that he got announced as VP. We were both sitting in the green room of Fox's setup there in Milwaukee at the convention. And I was coming on to be a panelist on Laura Ingram's primetime show. And they're doing makeup and hair. And I'm looking at my phone, I think answering emails and texts. And I look up, and sitting in the chair next to me now is J.D. Vance. And of course, we're maybe an hour or 2 hours into him being the presumptive nominee of our party. And Senator Vance, I guess at the time, an honor to meet you. We had a great conversation. And I can tell you just from that, I hadn't studied the guy, hadn't read the book. I actually read the book on the flight home from that trip and watched the movie when I got back. What an incredible story. What an incredible human being to be able to gone through all he's gone through, but not just to be defined by his story, to be able to go out and actually prove that he is somebody. And to actually be able to go in that VP debate against Tim Walz and shock the nation. He has the highest favorability numbers of anybody in the White House in modern American history. That came out this morning. His approval numbers are higher than the president's right now. And it's great to see that there is a bright future for our party. Unfortunately, it looks like the DNC's future consists of people like Jasmine Crockett and AOC. And if they do that, that will be the final nail in the coffin of their already limping party. So we wish them all the best.
But did you not see the historic event, the most historic, when Cory Booker lasted 24 something, beat Strom Thurmond's record, I think.
Joey, this is what Democrats continue to do. And my message to Cory Booker is do your job or get a new job, because all they like to do time and time again is talk. And finally, specifically Gen Z in this previous election in November, were fed up with it. They had been promised empty lies time and time and time and time and time again by the Democrat Party saying that we're going to do this for you. We're going to defend you here. We're going to protect you here. We're going to cut this. And they don't. Yet the Democrats continue to give these long 25-hour speeches, but what was actually accomplished in Cory Booker's long-term address? Did he put up any legislation? Did he do anything except hold his bladder for 25 hours? No, not a single thing. That is the epitome of the Democrat Party. All talk, no action. And that right there is why Gen Z utterly rejected them in November and will continue to utterly reject them in 26 and 28. We're seeing those trends. We saw the trends in the special election. Gen Z got out and voted, and that was huge. First of all, to just have Gen Z voter participation in a special election in Florida and Wisconsin, but to have majority of those voters, I was literally just in an RNC call before I hopped on here, swinging our way is major. This was not a one-time thing, but Gen Z is now part of the Republican Party, and that's the biggest news I've ever heard, Joey.
No, it's amazing to see the youth embrace this idea of no pain, no gain. And I was reading yesterday from Victor Davis Hanson. I think he makes a good suggestion. You're already seeing some modulation with Doge. That Brett Baer interview with Elon and the Doge team was just fantastic. Victor Davis Hanson's point was, when it comes to whether it's the tariffs or these cuts to government jobs and restructuring government, it almost needs to be presented in a tragic way. Like, this is necessary. There might be some pain, but in order to secure that future for the next generation, we need to go through this. I'd imagine younger folks get that better than anybody. It's more the boomers we need to sell.
Correct. So my very first day as chair of the RNC's Youth Advisory Council, I was up in D.C. We were sitting in the Reagan conference room in the RNC's beautiful headquarters, just right there on Capitol Hill. And it was a pivotal moment in my life. I'm pinching myself. I'm like, how in the world am I sitting here? And the comment that I made to the president's team and the RNC at the time was, we are on the right side of history. We have the right message in our party, but we have a messaging problem. And it's about how we talk about things. Abortion, obviously a major messaging problem in the 2022 midterms. What are we going to do to change our messaging? Look at this scenario again. All the Democrats are talking about time and time and time and time and time again is Doge and attacking Elon Musk. They've even given up on attacking Trump. They're just branding Musk and Trump together. This messaging is exactly right. Presented as a tragic thing, just like VDH said. Look at us as we don't want to have to fire people. We don't want to have to open up a new government agency to close other government agencies. We don't want to have to sit here and put reciprocal tariffs on people when we could actually just be working on growing commerce inside the country. But unfortunately, that's the cards that we were dealt. Unfortunately, we have to put on reciprocal tariffs because nobody had done it before. Unfortunately, we have to cut government spending because nobody had done it before. That's the position we're in. Will there be some short-term pain? Absolutely. That's part of cutting stuff like this, but it's necessary because we just had 4 long, dark years of pain, Joey, and I can promise you we'll see the stocks rebound in a few short weeks.
And last question here. How does Alabama fit into this? In particular, I'm thinking of our statewide elected senators, Katie Britt and Coach Tuberville. How do you think they are fitting in with the president's agenda, and maybe that could accrue to our benefit here in the state?
Yeah, so I was in a few transition meetings with the campaign between the election and the inauguration, and a lot of conversation was put on making sure that we keep senators in the Senate and congressmen in the House because the president needs his bulldogs. The president needs the people that are going to go toe to toe with the left as they get louder and scream more and try to block his agenda, the agenda that the American people voted on in a duly elected election. Thankfully, the president can count on Alabama's two senators to be those bulldogs for him. Katie Britt, Tommy Tuberville, both people that I've spoken with several times since the election and 2 or 3 times since the actual inauguration, who are working very, very hard, tirelessly. Katie's back in the state right now, and she'll be at this dinner tonight. In Birmingham with the president's son, making an effort to do everything that she can within her power to reach out to the next generation and bring them into our party. She's the epitome of that. And I got to speak on a college campus just last week, and I had somebody at the very end say, "Oh, well, you talk about there's room for young people in politics, but I just don't see young elected officials." And I said, whoa. Look at 41-year-old Katie Britt being the first mom, as a Republican senator in American history. She right there is breaking the mold and making all of us in Alabama proud. So we have some pretty good representatives, cleaning up Washington, D.C., and it's a proud day to be an Alabamian.
Well, beautiful. Well, I'm staying here in Montgomery, so I can just get up early, work out on a Friday. So have fun at the dinner tonight. But always great having you on the program, Brylan. Let's do it again soon.
Thank you, Joey. I'll be in Montgomery soon, so we'll do it in person.
Amen. Thanks, sir.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Again, folks, that's Brylan Hollihan. Always great to have him here on the program. We got to hit a quick break, and I'm not alone, though, in the studio.
Hello.
She showed up early.
I'm here.
Pamela, hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I was excited to see him on because I followed him on Instagram for a long time. Yeah.
No, and man, he's got it. He's well put together. And
I know. When I was his age, embarrassing.
No,
embarrassing.
No, and you at least got the military to straighten you out a little bit.
I did, yeah.
I don't know what I'm just floundering over here. So let's hit this break. We'll be right back. Close out the show.
Want to carry News Talk in your pocket? Download the News Talk 93.1 app from the App Store. Available on iPhone and Android. Never miss a moment. Download now.
Is your business feeling the heat of cyber attacks? Tired of worrying about ransomware, data breaches, downtime, and employee mistakes? GTI Managed IT Solutions has been your trusted partner since 1999, safeguarding and supporting businesses like yours from the ever-evolving threats in the digital world. GTI, your peace of mind is guaranteed. Call us today at 819-4650 or visit gtinow.com.
Hi, this is Bo Goodson from the Goodson Group with your Real Estate Minute. You're thinking of selling your home. Here are several ways to improve the look of your home and possibly the value. Number 1, improve the curb appeal with trim bushes and cut the grass. Repaint the exterior where needed, and if needed, paint your front door. Number 2, declutter the inside of the home by removing items that are not needed off countertops, dressers, and the den. 3, paint walls and trim where needed with a fresh coat of paint in a light color that will show off your home. 4, clean your oven and microwave inside and out, make it shine. Number 5, professionally clean carpets or shine the wood floors with a polish or Bono. 6, clean out all closets or unwanted clothes, shoes, belts, hats, and donate them to a local charity. Finish any leftover repairs now, doorknobs, light bulbs, and closet doors. For a complete list and an in-person evaluation and consultation, call Bo Goodson from the Goodson Group, 221-2883 or 551-0225.
This is your roving reporter, and today I am talking with an elk. Hey man. Mr. Elk, I was just wondering, what do elk do to take care of their money? Well, like most smart folks, we call David Erdis. You mean Alabama's most favorite asset preservationist? That's him, man. We call him up at 334-279-7431 or 205-479-0839. I see. Yes, he is our preferred money man. The money man with the money plan. You've been paying attention. Well, could you give us those numbers one more time? 334-279-7431 or 205-479-0839. And I just want to try to give you a heads up, man. Oh, what's that? I'm not an elk. Not an elk, huh? Well, then, pray tell, what are you? Knights of Columbus. I am not even going to make a comment. Well, the baby liked it.
Hi, I'm Allison Chandley, account executive with Blue Water Broadcasting. Why should you advertise with us? Did you know that more Americans listen to the radio than use Facebook each week? Did you know that 77% of listeners would try a brand or product endorsed by their favorite radio personality? Contact me, Allison Chandley, by going to bluewaterbroadcasting.com to find out more. Blue Water Broadcasting, local folks helping local business.
With spring officially here, Pizza Perfect has sprung a great deal for April. Get a free order of breadsticks or cinnamon sticks with the purchase of any large pizza. That'll make the whole family smile. Pizza Perfect's amazing buffet includes pizza, as well as spaghetti, breadsticks, salad, dessert, and drink for only $13. The buffet is available Monday through Saturday for lunch and for dinner on Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday. Pizza Perfect is also available for pickup and delivery. Pizza Perfect on Coliseum Boulevard in Eastbrook.
This hour of News and Views is brought to you by our good friends at Cole Plumbing, 279-8919. Cole Plumbing is number one in the number two business. You don't have to dig a hole. They have proprietary pipelining technology. Ask them about their tankless water heaters. Remember, when you have trouble with your bowl, call on Cole.
Live local talk. The River Region's only 24-hour News Talk FM station. News Talk 93.1 FM WACV.
Joey Clark.
Welcome back. So, what a day. This day's flown by.
It really has.
What's been eating up your day?
I was at the spa earlier.
Mhm.
My first client was at 7:45.
Woo!
Yeah.
Bright and early.
Yes. And then I went to a photo shoot with Jacqueline.
Oh, Jay
I
Quellen.
got her in on my little side thing. So she had her own photo shoot with one of the photographers I work with today.
Okay.
Yeah. I told you she's getting her lick back.
Oh, no, I've noticed.
Yeah. So
If I could bumble my way through that. I think I was in the sauna stretching and stuff at the time you were there at 7:45. Get up early. I've been getting up early. I've been hitting the workouts. I'm enjoying it. It's a good schedule we got.
yeah, I get up early and walk 3 miles usually in the morning.
Well, and I've learned do not ever look at X or the news
No.
when I first wake up. Then it's just anger immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need that. I need to listen to some music or a good book or something. And then let's see who this is on line one. You're on there. Who's this?
Hey, it's Ray. I missed your call.
Hey, Ray. How are you doing?
Good. Most people don't know y'all call me. I don't call y'all. And I was on the line and couldn't get off, so I called you right back. And then you didn't know who it was and pick up the phone. Now we're doing our commercial 10 minutes early. How about that?
It's beautiful. And of course, this is Ray Bowles from Prattville Carpet, if y'all didn't already know.
Hey, what you need to do, Joey, is read two chapters of your Bible every morning before you look at your phone.
There you go.
Oh, that is a better idea.
Yeah.
I try to do that every morning. It just depends on how the puppy's acting. Some mornings are better than others right now.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. For a while, I was picking up the Adages of Erasmus, which was he was a priest in the High Renaissance and collected all sorts of old sayings. But no, I think just slowly working through the Bible, though. Like, am I going to get stuck in like Leviticus or Deuteronomy? And
Eventually.
Deuteronomy gets hard. But once you get through that and you hit Psalms, Job's fun. I'm all the way to Jeremiah. No, Ezekiel. I'm in Ezekiel right now. But all I can handle is two chapters. I got to do short. I'm not good at reading. It takes me a while. Reading is not my friend. But anyway, that would help you. It makes you. Why do you think I'm always in such a cheerful mood? I do not look at that phone first because that sets the mood for the whole day.
Here. I like that.
So, hey, listen, if you need a floor, give us a call. 285-8117. We'll come out and give you a free measurement. Next thing you know, got a floor down. Just that simple.
Again, that's 285-8117. When you call them up at 285-8117, be sure to say, hey, I heard Ray Bowles on the radio trying to set that Joey Clark guy straight in the mornings.
And listen, if you really want your mornings to be chaos, get a little Doberman Pinscher.
Oh my gosh.
How is that going with the puppy?
Well, he had to go to the vet today, and I took him by the store, and he got scared and was going to run out of the door and ran into the door. And then, no, it got worse. It got a lot worse. So I said, look, you hadn't used the bathroom for a while. Come on, let's go in the grass. And he did his business and runs and jumps into the truck. And then I realized he must have ran through his business before he jumped in my truck.
Oh, no.
Mhm.
Oh, no.
Goodness.
Well, he'll
Puppies
learn.
are chaos. But you got to have the chaos to have the good dog in the end, right?
You're here. It's a lesson there.
Mhm.
All right, guys. Y'all have a great day.
You too, Ray. Great hearing from you. So I'm trying to think what I learned today. That it's apparently we are past Liberation Day in America. And what are the markets called? NASDAQ is closing it was down 6%.
Yeah, I think Dow was 3.8 or something. Oh, they're at 3.9 now.
Yeah.
Yeah. We know. We
This
knew
is
this.
expected, yes.
We knew this.
This is all expected. So we shouldn't get freaked out.
No, I'm
Too
not
much.
freaked out.
Now, there's this one clip I've been just wanting to play, waiting to play.
Mhm.
You know of the brother-sister team. Callie Means is the
And Casey
brother, and
Means.
Casey Means the doctor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, did you see Callie Means at a political event just taking on all sorts of big pharma lobbyists in the room to their face? Oh, I've got it right here. Again, this is Callie Means. We'll just go through it a little bit. Let's listen in.
On CNBC, it's just a nonstop. It's a nonstop infomercial for pharma. It's a Sky Rizzy commercial followed by Scott Gottlieb saying how Bobby's killing people, followed by a breathless coverage of the measles outbreak and no mention of
But Callie,
the mental health crisis.
How does
And
cutting a bunch of HHS
it is
solve that
insane.
problem?
It is insane. It is insane for you to insinuate that the thing standing between us and better health is more government bureaucrats. Like that
That's
is
not what I'm in-
demonstrably
that's not
insane.
what I'm
That is what
insinuating.
everyone's saying. It is absolutely insane to insinuate that it's some crime.
It's
that
not all
Peter
bureaucrats.
Marks-
It's a lot of
that-
scientists. It's researchers. It's people who are making sure that our
those
systems are
scientists
safe.
fundamentally have overseen, just demonstrably, a record of utter failure. It would be insane. Is that funny? Is that not true? I'd love to hear how. So what metrics would you guys point to for how the scientific community, how the 4 times more per capita on healthcare spending that we spend in America versus other countries has produced innovation? Has there been one single chronic disease medication in modern American history that has lowered rates of the chronic disease? It is appropriate that the American Academy of Pediatrics right now, which is 90% funded by pharma, is pushing Ozempic on 6-year-olds.
But so Kelly,
That
why
is
not-
what the
why not
medical authorities
push-
are doing.
why-
Like the idea
Are
that,
the cuts gonna stop there?
Bobby Kennedy should not come in and make dramatic changes to the leadership and the personnel at these authorities that have overseen an abject devastation of American health, which the lobbyists in this room do not have the humility to admit that we have gone completely wrong. The lobbyists in this room laughing when we have the sickest children in the developed world. If that is your attitude, and your attitude is to tell the Maha moms that their votes and their voice is not legitimate, that we need dramatic changes to American healthcare. If you think it is illegitimate for Bobby Kennedy to not make big changes to people like Peter Marks, who once again and again went against FDA advisory opinions, who fired the 2 top vaccine makers, the 2 top vaccine scientists at the FDA for suggesting that we shouldn't mandate COVID shots for soldiers, who continually went against expert opinion in favor of the pharmaceutical industry, who many people here were collaborating with him with. The fact that somebody like that can't be fired and he can't install tremendous people like Marty McCary and Jay Bhattacharya and Dr. Oz to start reforming these agencies and put in their people, of course he should do that. That's what people voted for.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's so good. And
Yeah.
he was relentless. He kept going and going and going. And some of the questions were just absurd. And like having to correct this, like, oh, you're cutting science research. It's like, no, that's literally the opposite of what we're doing.
Right.
We're trying to free up more money.
What they have been doing is clearly not working. We are the fattest, sickest just terrible off, the most terribly off that we have ever been.
Yeah, here's a little more. This back and forth is kind of amazing.
The administration has put out guidance that they want to direct and cut indirect funding. That fundamentally means more money is going to researchers.
Yeah, and that's in response. Let me back it up a little bit. She asked a ridiculous question. Yeah,
food is medicine.
Shocking.
That's what we're talking about with healthcare flexibility.
You do all of that research and work when you're slashing it and cutting.
We're
it.
not. Has NIH funding been slashed?
Yes.
No, has research has not been cut.
The funding has been cut.
Research funding has not been cut. The NIH now has the indirect funding. Indirect funding does not. Indirect funding. It's amazing. It's amazing how many people here care about the health of American children. I'm actually inspired. Thank you for the care. Thank you for the care. The administration has put out guidance that they want to direct and cut indirect funding. That fundamentally means more money is going to researchers. The guidance that Bobby Kennedy and the Trump administration put out means more money is going to frontline researchers to do research. There is a very clear signal, demonstrably, with what is happening, which is that government bureaucrats are being disempowered and more money is going to actual researchers. They are hissing about changes to a system that has caused absolute devastation to American health, about policies that give more money. Today, more money will be flowing to actual researchers, not university bureaucrats, not government bureaucrats, actual researchers. Not a dollar of services has been cut. There has been an attack on bureaucracy, both with the indirect funding because of the NIH, not money. Harvard was getting 70 cents on the dollar, not for research with a grant, but for bureaucracy.
Wow.
Cutting indirect costs gets more money to researchers. The level of reporting on one measles death and the utter lack of interest in this room and in the media, quite frankly, about the 38% of teens who have prediabetes and the hundreds of millions of Americans that are being savaged by.
Well, I think we've talked about that actually quite a bit in this conversation,
I think
which
it's been
I do
very
appreciate.
little talked about generally.
I will say I don't remember another time in history when there has been this much talk in politics about chronic disease, about childhood disease.
No thanks to a lot of lobbyists in this room, but we're very glad the American voters have pushed that forward.
Wow. Yeah, it's just fantastic. Seeing a guy go into the lion's den and just push back in that way. And it is amazing the amount of mockery, hissing, laughter.
I know. They're children.
Yeah. And that's the most amazing thing is defending a failed status quo, whether it's in the healthcare world or anything else. In American foreign policy, Department of Education, yes.
Yeah.
It's just absurd. And we're going to make changes. Y'all can keep belly aching all you want. And if you think
they don't want research going into what actually is in our food and what we're eating and what they're doing to us.
Right.
Or what
and
the
things
implications of all these medications and people becoming prescribed ADHD medications when they're 5 years old.
Well, and for instance, some of the basic fixes to children with pre-diabetes probably won't make certain companies as much money.
Yeah, no.
Anyway, I got to get out of here. My captain, Greg Vidal. He's next.
Broadcasting from the Riverside Chevrolet Master Control Center, this is WACV Cusana, News Talk 93.1 FM. When it's Chevy.